Ladies and gentlemen, councillors, please stand for the chairman of the West Northamptonshire Council, the vice chair and the chief exec, please.
Good evening all. Please do take your seats. Thank you. It's 6 o'clock now, so we'll start the meeting of West Northamptonshire Council. And item number 1, apologies for non-attendance. Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillors Fiona Baker, Dermot Bambridge, Janice Duffy, Alison Eastwood, Jonathan Harris, Lauren Harrington-Carter, Charles Manners, Charles Morton, Jake Roberts, Sue Sharps, Zoe Smith and Winston Strachan, and Councillor Harry Barrett.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other notifications of apologies for non-attendance? Thank you. Just for purpose of the meeting, it would be easier if you'd like to draw attention to the members of Democratic Services rather than myself if you'd like to speak. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, hello. I'd like to send the apologies, please, for Councillor Terry Eales.
Thank you. Any further? No, that's complete. Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest from members and officers. Rather important that West Northamptonshire Council takes seriously any breach of the Code of Conduct where a matter arises at a meeting in which a councillor has a disclosable pecuniary interest. The member must declare the interest, not participate or participate further in any discussion or vote further on the matter, and must not remain in the room unless granted dispensation in advance. Councillors are then asked to declare the item number in which they have an interest, the nature of the interest, and whether it is a disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory interest. Thank you. Item 3, minutes of the meeting held last on the 30th of June 2022. Councillor Stone.
I'd just like to make a comment on the minutes, please, Chair. And I'd like to draw everybody's attention to the withdrawn motions that are minuted at the end of the minutes. My fear is we're looking at a democratic deficit here because we're running out of time to have the debates and the discussions that we really want to have. And I would ask you to have a look again at the schedule of meetings and see if we shouldn't have more council meetings so that we can comfortably cover all the issues that need to be covered. That doesn't seem to be happening at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. I'll certainly consider that and come back to you on that point. In relation to the actual minutes of the meeting, is it the Council's wish that I sign the minutes of the previous meetings as a true and accurate record? Thank you. Item 4 are my announcements, and had to be said on the announcement of the passing of our Queen, a key time in the history of West Northamptonshire and our nation, where we expressed our heartfelt thank yous and laid to rest Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. As a leading global monarch, Queen Elizabeth left a lasting legacy of loyalty and perseverance. And in Royal West Northamptonshire, the maternal home of the Prince of Wales and future King, there are many special memories and experiences to be treasured for generations to come. Through the commemorative services and special arrangements, I was honoured to represent our council and the good citizens of all of West Northamptonshire. It was joyfully impressive through the proclamation services and announcements to share the welcome to our new sovereign, His Royal Highness King Charles III, with many thousands of our citizens who with pride came out of their homes and businesses to show their support and share the warmth and passion during these significant occasions. We wish our new King and the Queen Consort a proud and joyous reign and look forward to welcoming them to West Northamptonshire very soon. I'd like to record a very special thank you also to the staff of West Northamptonshire Council, the emergency services, and the many volunteers who gave so much of their time to support the tremendous services, the special occasions, and as we know, the ceremonies and official duties that were carried out during this specific time. Without those people who gave more than their working hours and those volunteers who gave so many hours, this would not have been so possible to run so smoothly. Thank you very much indeed, and I'd like to ask the Chief Executive please to pass on my thanks on behalf of ourselves here at Council to all of those members of our staff. Thank you. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I regret to inform you also of some rather sad news on top of that of our monarch, of the passing of a number of former members of our incorporated predecessor authorities. Former Northamptonshire County Councillor and Kettering Borough Councillor Mick Scrimshaw passed away on the 27th of July following a long illness. Mick was elected to Northamptonshire County Council in 2013 and served until 2021. He was opposition spokesman for finance and served as the chair of the Council's Overview and Scrutiny Committee, taking over from myself at the time, and I have to say he was very dedicated and certainly applied all his wisdom and his experiences to the role. It's also my sad duty to inform Council that former Northamptonshire County Councillor Mark Bullock passed away on the 30th of June. Mark was elected to Northamptonshire County Council in 1997 and represented the Daventry West Division before representing Corby Central from 2001 to 2013. He served as chair and deputy chair of various overview and scrutiny committees, and during his time as a councillor, he was also a very good cricketer. I do remember that too. I must also inform the Council that sadly former Northamptonshire County Councillor Ron Sawbridge also passed away recently. Ron was elected to the County Council in 2001 and served until 2013. He undertook a range of roles, including chairing the Children, Young People Scrutiny Committee for 4 years, and he served as chairman of the Council in 2011 to 2012. He and his wife were well known as long-term foster carers and cared for many children in our county. And I'd like to pass on our thanks and our obviously condolences to his family, which I have written to all of these members of the councils and their families. So it's very sad indeed. There are many councillors I'm sure would like to speak, but I have a couple of names already on the list. If you like, Councillor Wendy Randall, I believe you wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was very sad to hear about Mick. I often used to give him a phone call and get some good advice off him. He'd done a fantastic job on scrutiny on the last few years on the County Council, and it would have been fantastic if we had had him on the West Northants Council, because he really did do a good job, and he battled hard against his illness. Mark Bullock, I knew because he was my county councillor, another fantastic guy. He used to make me laugh when he used to, if an old lady phoned him up and asked how he could get rid of a bed or something, he would just borrow someone's van, put it in the back of the van and take it off to the tip, to save any fly tipping. So, both of them worked really hard on their wards. I didn't know Councillor Sawbridge, but I would just like to pass on my condolences of all three of those councillors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sally Bearsworth, I believe you wanted to speak as well.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it was my privilege to work alongside all three of these councillors. All of them had wonderful ways of working. Mick Scrimshaw was a very, very good finance councillor. He was very well known and he did a really good job for his ward. Mark Bullock was extremely kind to me when I first became a councillor on Northampton County Council as the only Liberal Democrat. And he was extremely kind and helpful, as he was with his whole life. He was always helping people and doing good things in his ward. And I'm terribly sorry that he's died. Ron Sawbridge was a wonderful man. He'd been a councillor a long time. He was a foster carer and he'd adopted a child as well. He worked so hard on Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee. It was his passion, and he lived life doing the job he did as well. So he'll be sadly missed, and I pass on my condolences to his wife and family.
Thank you very much indeed. Any further members of the council who'd like to speak? Councillor Brown, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. My condolences to the families of all three gentlemen who passed away. I didn't know Mark Bullock or Ron Sawbridge, but I did know Mick Scrimshaw, and on behalf of the Conservative group, I'd just like to say how much respect Mick Scrimshaw had from all members at Northamptonshire County Council. I knew him as the Labour spokesman for finance and the chairman of the One Remaining Scrutiny Committee when we had the reforms to scrutiny at the County Council. He undertook that role with fantastic diligence, great passion and a real pursuit of objective truth, and he was admired accordingly by members from all sides, and he'll be greatly missed.
Thank you. And Councillor Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As somebody who was first elected to Northamptonshire County Council in 2005 through to 2013, I had the pleasure of working both with Mark and also part of playing cricket as well. So yes, Mark was a very capable person and he was a very challenging politician, and many good debates I have been involved with. Ron, of course, was my colleague that represented Brackley West. I represented Brackley East for that period. And Ron was indeed a great, committed person who, for children, his foster caring, the education that he did, everything that Ron did, he did, and he absolutely loved representing Brackley. And he certainly, it's a sad loss, and obviously our condolences go to everybody that's died, and we remember them for what they did for us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Any further members of the council like to speak at this point? No. Okay, thank you. Colleagues, I think we've had a customary tradition now of a minute's applause for former members of the incorporated councils, and I'd like you to join me, please, in that for 1 minute. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. To confirm that we will be taking a comfort break at around about 7:30 at an appropriate moment after that. And I'd also just like to say that that is obviously not just for myself, it's also you have the freedom clearly to get up as you'd like during the meeting, but also for the hard-working officers of our team here, and it's really important to know that. Unfortunately, Catherine Whitehead, the monitoring officer, is unable to be with us today. She's rather poorly, but we do have some really good advisors here, but if we have to stop and take advice, then we will do, so please do bear with us. I'd like to also, as an announcement, wish a tremendous amount of success and great opportunity for all those young people in our community. West Northamptonshire has some fantastic young people who've either started school, gone on to further education, university, or jobs this month. I think it's quite tremendous at the end of the day that we give them the opportunity and the success behind us and them to ensure that they have great leadership and great opportunities going forward. We're also corporate parents for over 1,000 children, and I think that we should also take note and try and support them wherever we possibly can. It is something really special and we know rather stressful for those young people, their parents and ourselves to take that on board, but it is something really important. So a big thank you to all the teaching profession who keep them going tremendously so well and give them that leadership. And over the last couple of years, it has been a rather tough time, so we do hope that they have some successes and great opportunities in the future. Okay, we have item 5, public participation, and we have 2 petitions that have been presenting to the council this evening. And I'd like to call on Mr. Eamon Fitzpatrick, who has a petition to submit, and about proposed redevelopment of Northampton Market Square, I believe. You have up to 3 minutes, Mr. Fitzpatrick, but I declare a personal interest as a customer of yours, sir, for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And I have to say that if your speech is as good as the fruit and vegetables that you do sell, I'm sure that it'll be excellent. Mr. Fitzpatrick, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, just a sec. Right. Sometimes in life, you see governments and councils making terrible mistakes. Well, that's what's happening here in Northampton. With regards to Northampton Market revamp, our Conservative Party council is cheerfully making such a mistake right now, and they expect you to stand by, stand aside and watch it happen. This historical market square is the heart of a great town and mustn't be made to look like an architect's dream, but be restored and once again become a thriving market to begin the regeneration of Northampton Town Centre. In a recent interview with a local news outlet, Jonathan Nunn said that us market traders will have to put up with it for 2 years in the wilderness. That's a charming remark. So in the same interview, another Tory councillor says they're going to locate us to a very busy road which will make the market more visible. If after 1 month, when we go down to Commercial Street and the market don't work, have you got a plan B? Because I've been a market trader now for 60 years. I've worked on Northampton Market for 60 years. I know a little bit about market trading, and I can tell you now, that's not going to work down there, Commercial Street. Is there any business owners here? Would you like to be moved down to Commercial Street? No? Oh, well, that's what they expect me to go down there. I've got 5 people work for me at the moment. One's been with me for 30 years. One's been with me for 5 years. And I've got my son involved in the business. There's no way whatsoever I'll get a living down there. No way whatsoever. It's finito, hasta la vista, whatever you want to say, it's the end of it, market trading down there. If after, say, month, 2 months, there's no market down there, will Jonathan Nunn resign? Town centre shopping, I know it's going downhill. I know all about it. But Northampton we still get a living on Northampton Market Square. I know you've got this money to spend, but you should spend it wisely. You've got a good chance. How much money's been spent on the market in recent years? Millions, absolute millions. And now you go around there now and see what you got. Shops have given up on police assisting them or prosecuting shoplifters. What's going on? You never see a policeman in the town centre. All the antisocial behaviour, the street drinking, the people living in doorways, and nobody does nothing about it. We ring the police up, they don't even come out. A minute.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, you have about a minute left.
Sorry, mate?
Mr. Fitzpatrick, you have about a minute left, sir.
A minute, yeah, all right.
Thank you.
Personally, I feel let down by politicians both locally and nationally, whatever the political party. In the new design for Northampton Market Square, the market traders have been sentenced to 2 years in the wilderness. The well-being of the market traders and their staff seem to be the very last thing to be taken into consideration. This shows the arrogance of the designers and the amazing lack of human interest shown by local Tory councillors and the council officers. And I've got this to say about the council officers: they're lazy. They're lazy. They could have put us in a better spot than that. All the empty spaces around the town centre, they put us in the middle of a car park next to the busiest motorway in the town centre, most polluted area in Northampton, and expect us to make a living down there. I know you can just free rent, but we still won't get a living down there. Please believe me, and it needs to be looked at again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Fitzpatrick.
Thank you very much.
Would Councillor Dan Lister like to acknowledge and respond to petition as it falls within your portfolio? Thank you, Mr Fitzpatrick. You'd like to just press the button, or Roger, if you could assist. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Lister.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we thank Mr Fitzpatrick for his petition and understand some traders and customers...
Councillor Lister, sorry. Can you bring your microphone closer to you, please? Thank
you. You hear me now? Yep. We thank Mr Fitzpatrick for his petition and understand some traders and customers are unhappy that the market will move to Commercial Street in the new year. As I understand it, there are 16,000 people that have signed the petition so far. That does leave 209,000 who haven't signed that petition, who don't agree and who never use the market. Every member of the public I've spoken to who do not currently use the market don't use it because they say it feels run down, out of date, and there is nothing for them to do in Northampton. The regeneration of our market is vital if we are to begin revitalising this town centre, making it a place many more people will want to visit. But let me read you a few paragraphs. In 2 years' time, without help now, Northampton market will not exist. The rent is not only the problem. Market traders have to put up with the falling footfall of customers, the antisocial behaviour of the street drinkers and dealers, and the stink of the alleys surrounding the market, which are used for toilets in bad weather. The marketplace has fallen into what might be called a medieval atmosphere. To help bring our market into the modern world and to make it more competitive against the supermarkets, a limited number of shuttered stalls will give many advantages, like refrigerated storage of perishable goods, for example. If you look at the busiest markets, you will find many of them have at least a good sprinkling of semi-permanent or dismountable shuttered units, affording usable space for a rich diversity of trades and crafts. Clearly, there is an opportunity to enhance our present marketplace by the introduction of a limited number of such units, facilitating the appearance of many new crafts and trades which our market currently does not have. I recommend that the Council look into this exciting possibility of breathing new life into Northampton market. Whilst I recognise some of these sentiments, I didn't write it. Mr Fitzpatrick did. We both agree and recognise the need for change and the need for change now. This piece of work is the first in a whole series of projects which will benefit all businesses and visitors to the town. I would like to put on record, though, that we have no intention, nor do we want to see the market disappear from Northampton. We will continue supporting the market traders throughout the move to Commercial Street, including conversation we have ongoing with supporting market users to be able to park in Commercial Street and liaising with the bus companies to ensure all of the people that use the market currently will be able to visit with easy access. Once the market square has been redeveloped, we will all be able to benefit, including the traders and their customers, from the improved environment and facilities we're providing for everyone. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Lister. I do encourage you to work very closely with the market traders, as I'm sure you do, but to continue to do so, to develop a plan which is distinct but also very sustainable, which I think is rather important going forward, as the only, I think we have the only permanent market town in England, in fact, the only marketplace in England, and I think it really is important to ensure that that maintains itself and its value for many, many years to come. We will arrange a written response for you, Mr Fitzpatrick, that will go through with more detail to it. Do we have anybody who'd like to speak? Councillor Eales, I think you'd like to add something very briefly.
Thank you. It will be brief. Just really a point of clarification. Was the contribution from Councillor Lister, which I've got no issue with, is that in line with the Constitution? Because of my experience, perhaps I'm not with the latest version of the Constitution.
From clarity, for a clarity perspective, obviously as it falls within his portfolio, any petitions that are placed, the relevant portfolio holder will respond on that basis. Thank you.
No, my question, but let me finish my sentence this time, if you wouldn't mind, Chairman. Okay. My question is that in line with the Constitution? Because if you're allowing the Cabinet member to respond, then the presenter of the petition ought to be offered the right to reply. I don't think either is permitted within the Constitution. That's my point of clarification I'm asking for.
Councillor Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can understand how Ms. Fitzpatrick feels. I've had many conversations with him regarding the Market Square, and I've organised several meetings to try to come up with something that would be agreeable to the market traders and also to the administration. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked, but I can understand the motivations and the disappointment that the market traders are going through, and it must be really, really horrible when you've employed someone for 30 years and that if it doesn't work down where it's going, Commercial Street, and you have to make these people redundant because they rely on Mr. Fitzpatrick for their living. I hope, I know Councillor Lister has had many meetings with the market traders, but I do hope they can get together again and perhaps go by a cross-party committee to really iron out some of the facts that Mr. Fitzpatrick has made. I would hate it if all the market traders that we've got are not, their businesses go to the wall. It would be a disaster for Northampton because you'll never get the market traders back once they've gone.
Thank you very much, Councillor Meredith. I agree with you, and obviously we're working hard on that. Just a clarity for all councillors here, obviously, this is a public participation session. This is obviously a petition section of the agenda. It's fairly busy, so I'm just going to confirm with Councillor Eales and all of us here today that obviously we don't appear to be impolite in any way whatsoever. If someone presents a petition, we've always given them the opportunity to have a right to reply effectively through the Cabinet member concerned. We will obviously give them a full written response, but that's the reason that we have established this over a number of meetings now. When someone has presented a petition, the opportunity for the Cabinet member to reply. Councillor Roberts, is it quite quick?
It is quite quick, Chair. You have allowed speakers, so I appreciate you letting me come in. Could I just ask that Councillor Lister's response to Mr Fitzpatrick is shared with all councillors, the written response, and also that when he does respond, he specifically addresses the loss of income for the market traders, because you didn't mention that once. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move on because we do have a member of the public, obviously, who's still waiting to present another petition. The lady who has, I think we've got lined up, Lynn Micallef, is it? Or McAuliffe, I think. Hello there. Would you like to come present your petition, please?
Sorry, Chair, we're still waiting for another speaker to turn up, so we're going to have Blessing next, please.
Right. Okay, bear with me just for a moment then.
He's just turned up, sorry. Lynn.
I'm here representing residents of Northampton who are requesting to become a free town and refrain from using weed killer and find an alternative resolution. Any current licence period to be used to phase out the use of glyphosate weed killer and introduce a new safer process. Why are we requesting this? We want a safer environment for wildlife, to cease destroying insects and their habitat and poisoning wildlife and their food chain, to stop injuring wildlife, to stop wasting valuable taxpayer money when other methods are proven to be cheaper, to stop irresponsible application through ungoverned, irresponsible methodology not recognised by the training and certification governments, assisting water companies in the removal of possible additional poisons accessing our water systems. Residents have reported various issues relating to weed killer application and its process of application and the disappearance of what was established wildlife and green areas. Residents have been horrified at the method of application seen and the results of this. The methods are not recognised by training companies and certification process. A petition was raised locally as an opportunity to attain further concerns from residents. Those concerns came thick and fast. 1,100 residents within the space of 3 weeks from the Far Cotton and Delapre area only. Awareness was raised with Councillor Julie Davenport, who started asking questions for us on our behalf. The council response was not acceptable on various levels and was actually quite dismissive. It's time for change. It's harsh, it's cruel, it's dangerous. The archaic laws of the 70s, when glyphosate was passed as safe, is over. Countries are requesting bans on glyphosate. Europe is already leading the way and on a larger scale asking for a worldwide ban. We're not here to support the manufacturers of poisons. It's become a very lucrative business. we're here to show due diligence and care for our wildlife and what's been labelled weeds and the well-being of including the people who handle the glyphosate. Anglian Water have noticed a rise in the presence of weed killer in the drainage water. Noted on their website, it's been created through the increased curbside spraying. This area of use would appear to have issues in our unethical application process with the use of quad bikes, issues many residents have raised. On further investigation, I became aware of PAN, that's Pesticide Action Network, and their work with a growing number of towns across the UK who are committing to becoming free towns on a new strategy. The free towns in the UK are already proving very successful. We want an alternative process adopted now in Northampton and not wait until the UK government ban it when it's too late. PAN UK have supported towns successfully transitioning from using dangerous weed killer to using safe alternative methods. They've kindly agreed to represent us in our request to show supporting evidence and a new infrastructure. And with that, I will bring Nick Mole from PAN UK.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I understand, Nick Mole, you'd like to speak on the same item. Thank you.
Yes, apologies for
You
the
have
delay.
3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Nick Mole. I represent the Pesticide Action Network UK. We're an independent charity that's been working on pesticide issues in the UK and globally for over 30 years. It's clear from the evidence that we're in the midst of a biodiversity crisis, and a growing number of towns, cities, parishes across the UK and more widely are seeing that our urban spaces, if they're managed differently without the use of herbicides, can be havens for pollinating species and supporting biodiversity in general, which is crucial at this time. As was already mentioned, there is a growing movement in the UK. I've personally been helping out with about 60 councils from parish up to county level to develop plans for phasing out pesticides. There is experience, a lot of experience from the European Union. France for many years has banned the use of all non-agricultural pesticides in its towns and cities. Luxembourg, Belgium, the same, Denmark, Italy, many other places. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of towns and cities around the world who manage very effectively to maintain their townscapes at an acceptable level to the public without presenting dangers, and yet not using herbicides. It is completely possible to do so. I would like to take this opportunity, if this is the direction, and I hope it is the direction that Northampton is going to take, to offer the expertise and experience of PAN UK to help you develop a strategy and a plan going forward, obviously at absolutely no cost whatsoever. And just to highlight this, earlier this week on Monday I was in Birmingham, where they've developed, Birmingham being the largest council actually in Europe, where they have already seen dramatic reductions in their use of herbicides across the entire city, including in preparation for the Commonwealth Games. And they're discussing plans that were presented on Monday to go even further. On Friday, Leicester announced that it was also going pesticide-free. So you would be part of a growing community of pesticide-free towns, supporting urban diversity, but also helping protect public health from the potential harm of the use of what are toxic chemicals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. Would Councillor Phil Larratt like to acknowledge and respond to the petition?
Roger. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I thank the two speakers for their presentation and for the petition, which I acknowledge the receipt of. I'm not going to respond
crops and food production. Consequently, we ask for more forward-thinking initiatives to prepare residents for a higher cost of living for the medium term, if not the foreseeable future. Households need to be more resilient to higher costs. We would recommend 3 priority actions to reduce high living costs and fossil fuel energy usage. Firstly, increased financial support to make homes more energy efficient, retrofitting, insulation, solar panels, etc. Secondly, further investments in infrastructure for low-cost and low-carbon forms of transport, walking, cycling, and other means of active travel. And thirdly, the promotion of local food growing and distribution initiatives. And finally, with regard to reducing both residents' energy bills and global greenhouse gas emissions, we urge councillors to ask local MPs to support the local electricity bill and amendments to the energy bill currently passing through the House of Lords. If this bill were made law, it would enable community energy groups to sell their clean energy locally for a fair price. Community-scale renewable energy has huge potential to benefit both households and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Cassidy. Appreciate your contribution. This will be addressed under item 8. The next speaker is Blessing Ombui, who is asked to address the Council in relation to item 7, report by the Cabinet Member for Children, Families and Education. Good evening, Blessing. You have up to 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Blessing Idris, or Ombui, and I am 13 years old. I am from Kenya, and I am here to speak about L to L, Learn to Live. At the start of summer, this camp started, and Danielle Stone and Councillor Jamal had made it available. Many people from Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq, and many other places had come from there to the UK with all sorts of trauma. But the summer camp had really lifted up their confidence and the ability to speak English. And Councillor Danielle and Councillor Jamal made that happen because they helped them and supported them in everything they did. With that being they just brought up so much and they really developed with everything. And, sorry. It's just a lot to say.
Don't worry, take your time.
Thank you. It's a lot to say because from the beginning of when they were really shy, they didn't really talk, they only talked in their language, to now they're playing games, dominoes, being as loud as they can, hurting each other's ears because they are screaming, winning dominoes. It's just been amazing of how they have become more comfortable around each other and they are very safe. And Danielle and Councillor Stone has made this place a really safe environment for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Blessing. I appreciate that. And I'm enjoying West Northamptonshire. Thank you very much. We have Mariam Arafai, who would like to address the Council on item 7, report to the Cabinet Member for Children, Families and Education. Mariam, you have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. My name is Mariam Al-Rafai. I'm from Iraq. I worked in L to L during the summer program to teach English. The program was a beautiful experience to explain. So everyone there, you just see people happy, enjoying their time. Everyone had a lovely experience there. For me, my role was to teach English and help young people like me develop their skills and settle in like I did 3 years ago, which was amazing because it's really hard to teach someone a language when you're speaking the language itself that they don't know. So doing it bilingually was really an efficient way to do it. I found I was really enjoying like seeing every day how, every lesson, how their like, skills would develop. Even if it was just a slight development, it was really meaningful for them. It was something amazing for me to witness, and it was an amazing opportunity. Other than that, we made learning fun. We did games. It was fantastic. And seeing everyone wanted to learn. Everyone just wanted the opportunity. This thing is very key to be provided for young people, because in our society, it's hard to claim such an opportunity, and to have it is very valuable. Sorry. So that was something. Also, the range of activities that we had. It was the activities inside, the learning, the karate, the activities outside. It brought everyone together, and it was just nice to see everyone as a team. It was just a fantastic experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mariam, and welcome to Northamptonshire. I'm glad that you've enjoyed West Northampton and the opportunity around it here. I'd like to invite now Setara Hadari to address the Council in relation to item 7, the report for Cabinet Member Children's Families Education. You're up to 3 minutes. Setara, welcome. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's my honor to be here. Thank you for having me. I am Setara Hadari, 16 years old from Afghanistan. Today, I'm here to talk to represent of young people about all the programs and amusement we did during the summer holiday that Ms. Danielle Stone made the arrangements by the support of government. Sorry. I came to United Kingdom a year ago. At the beginning, I was in London. Then I came to Northampton during the summer holiday. I and more than 25 other young people staying in hotel. When we came to Northampton, as well as it was holiday, we had no school, no college, and no other responsibilities or activities to do. So Ms. Danielle Stone came and found us. They organized supportive and different programs for us. They support us by everyday transport, meals, and many kind of indoor and outdoor activities. A program under the name of L2L organized for us. In this place, we had activities, workshops, a study place with many kind of books and computers, art, painting, video game, printing, and other physical activities. And we also had outdoor activities such as picnic, visiting library, bowling, trampoline, golf, cinema, visiting the county hall, museum, several workshops, going to football stadium, and many more other activities. And at the final day of summer vacation, we had a trip day out of Northampton City to Hunstanton Beach. And these are the things we did in this summer. The young people got the opportunities to working as a volunteer and getting experience. And as all we know that we had a lot of difficulties after the close of government in our country, Afghanistan. We haven't these opportunities in there. In my country, the girls are even not allowed to go to school. So we are thankful of government, UK government, for supporting us, helping us to achieve our goals and making our life better. A special thanks to Ms. Danielle Stone, Mr. Jamal, and all of the council members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Setara, and thank you for your contribution, and delighted to hear of the successes that you've had here. Councillor Hinch, I think, is it you there, sir? Have you got a quick question to raise? We have still got members of the public to speak.
It's actually over this particular subject, and I had the pleasure of joining this group because we provided the transport. I've been absolutely amazed at the attitude that these youngsters have and the contribution and work they make to society. When we first got told we were going to take a group of teenagers out, we were horrified. I've never come across such a group of well-behaved youngsters in my life. And it's a credit to Councillor Stone for putting this programme together, and I think the council should recognise the work that she's been doing for this particular group and the L2L programme.
Thank you, Councillor Hinge. Very good of you indeed. We have another speaker who would like to address the council, Ms. Jane West. Jane West, if you'd like to please take the microphone. You have opportunity under priority motion item 6. I think you'd like to address the council. You're up to 3 minutes. Please do feel free to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Hello, everyone, and please excuse if a little frustration sneaks in. This is the 4th time I've spoken to the authority over 7 years on the motion in front of you, not the particular motion, but the issue of trash, litter, you name it, in central Northampton predominantly, but it's a problem in the Eastern District, turn around. So I do appreciate, I've got a couple of controversial things to say. I've been doing some amateur sleuthing. I do talk to people within the authority, and I talk to a lot of neighbours. These are quotes I've had since 9 o'clock this morning when I told people I was coming. I don't think I need to tell you the scale of the problem, and it's been for a decade at least, going back to the enterprise days. It's embedded and entrenched. I would urge everyone to have a Google when you get home for the broken window syndrome, because that's exactly what we've got here. A lot of the trash in Northampton streets, and we have evidence and photographs, it's not recent, it's not dropped by residents. It's been there for months, longer. So the scale of the problem, it's affecting economic investment. I happen to work with industries that might well invest in Northampton. And I can tell you they come to Northampton, and I can't actually use the words a lot of these people use. It affects residents, it affects their mental and general well-being. I mean, I have quotes. I've lived in Semalong nearly 40 years, and I'm now moving. I'm sorry, I got quite emotional today. The long-standing problems of litter, fly tipping, and landlord and shop behaviour are at unacceptable levels. This has caused me anger and frustration, and I am now depressed. I was an active participant in the local plan for the area, but have now withdrawn. I probably have about 30 of these, so I'm going to say a few controversial things, I'm afraid, and I've been doing some amateur sleuthing. A lot of this trash and graffiti is just not dealt with. I've had meetings, the local MP has got involved, the chief executive of West Northants has got involved. There is a cultural problem at the front face of this service. That's something you've got to look at. It needs fresh eyes. I think people who could do something about it have stopped seeing it. I travel around the country a lot, as do some of these people here. I spent 2 weeks in Walthamstow and Leighton this summer, and compared to Northampton, it's spotless. This beautiful town does not deserve to be neglected in this way. There's a lot of pressures on people's lives, and to open your front door in central Northampton and look at this dreadful state of affairs is depressing. It's impacting on people's mental health. So what we need to do is have an immediate task force and an immediate clean-up, zero-tolerance approach. We have to stop using these ridiculous open recycling bins that blow trash around the town every single week. You guys, I believe, going back to the borough, have been testing bag receptacles, trialling it, testing it. We don't have a bag splitting machine. The authority won't buy one. It's not us, it's Viola. Come on, this is going to take some serious attention.
Thank you, Ms. West. Can I ask you, please, in the interest of the council, just to note those details if you can also, and perhaps address them to the appropriate cabinet member, who is Councillor Phil Larrick, because I think you have some interesting points there that I'm sure you didn't have enough time to complete today. If you'd like to drop him a line, I'm sure he'll handle that on your behalf.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. Do we have any other members of the public there, Roger, who would like to speak with you at all? Thank you very much. Okay, item 6. As we have not received any written questions from members of the public to respond to. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you very much. I have been supporting Jane West, who lives in my ward, as well as a lot of other local residents who have to live with the chaos, the dirt, the filth, the rubbish, the bags, the mattresses, the empty kitchens, the broken fridges, not to mention babies' nappies, and various other quite disgusting detritus. Councillor Smith will verify that I have written to him repeatedly ever since I became councillor for West Northants. And I think he has, in fairness, tried. I think he has tried, but it's just not good enough.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, can I hold you just there? As we have an opposition priority motion coming through now, I think it's important we take that. I appreciate you have very important points to raise. May I ask you to raise those obviously directly with Councillor Larratt or Councillor Smith, and if you'd like to copy me in, then obviously we'll follow that up. But I think it is important, obviously we move on to the agenda item that we have here. I think a lot of what you're saying will be covered under that also. Okay, under the rules set out with the Constitution, this item is limited to 15 minutes, and the move of the priority opposition motion shall have 5 minutes to move the motion. The seconder shall have 3 minutes. A member responding on behalf of the administration shall have 5 minutes, and the leader of the principal opposition shall have 2 minutes to reply. No other questions or debate shall be allowed. That's under the rules of the Constitution. So I call on Councillor Bob Personnel to propose the motion.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jane, for your comments. This is the point of our business tonight. It's the state of our streets, the fly tipping, the rubbish bags, the litter. Our present approach is not working. We need a joined-up approach, and really I'm saying we should start with a summit of all the key people involved. Last Friday, I went to speak to a local shopkeeper on this Wellingborough Road about the state of the alleyway behind his shop. I'm sure our politics are far apart, but we agreed that something has got to be done. On my way to meeting him, I passed a chest of drawers on the corner of Melville Street, 6 bags at the end of Melville Street, 3 bags on the corner of Stimpson Avenue by the school. I reported all of these, as I do. I then got to see him, and we identified the spot where the rats were coming from. Later, on Friday evening, I went to Cabinet, and it was reported that 3,980 incidents of fly tipping had been cleared up in the first quarter of this year. It was presented as a success. It's not. It's an indication that we've got a huge problem in this town. This time last year, as a new councillor, I naively thought that if I reported each incident of fly tipping, it would sort it out. More and more reports have gone in. But we're not tackling the problem at source. We aspire to be a clean and green West Northants, but we're going backwards at the moment. Residents are frustrated, some are angry, and some are taking out their frustration on local councillors who are doing their best to tackle the problem. It's not fair on them, and it's not right, and it's because we're not getting it, we've not got a joined-up approach. And we have refuse collection, litter bin emptying, large item collecting, fly tipping collecting, special nasty squads, and more. NPH are involved. But we're not treating it as a system. We need a joined-up approach, and I'm suggesting we have a summit involving the key people who can make a contribution to this. I think we need to get away from blame and a blame approach, but I do think we need to take responsibility. I think everyone's getting is getting frustrated, and I think the cabinet members responsible need to take a lead in getting this sorted. We are operating in silos. We have a disaggregated approach, and it probably relates to the contract culture that we've inherited. Everyone is fulfilling some of their terms of everyone is fulfilling the terms of their contracts, but the whole is less than the sum of its parts. So our suggestion is that we should have a summit of all interested parties in a room with the task of coming up with a joined-up action plan. So we want to start with the people who really understand the problem. The bin emptiers, the fly tipping clearers, the people who live in houses of multiple occupation and their landlords, the shopkeepers, some of the ones who are the worst offenders perhaps, the refuse collectors, the wombles, neighbourhood wardens, local councillors and the relevant officers and cabinet members to come up with an action plan, to understand the problem, to be clear about what we're trying to achieve, to see what changes can be made. We've got to be better at information sharing and education. Surveillance and enforcement are important components. And I'm sure that if we get all these things working together, we can make a difference to the whole of our district. So I'm calling on all of us, the whole council, the cabinet, the administration, to work together to get a grip on this so that we can be a clean and green council.
Thank you, Councillor Person.
And it isn't just a statement of jargon that looks good on our website. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Person. Councillor Wendy Randall, if you'd like to second the proposal, you have about 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'd like to second the motion. I'd like to second the motion, and can I reserve my right to speak, please?
On this particular point, there isn't any further debate permitted under the Constitution, so if you'd like to speak, now is the time to do so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Purser has covered that very well. Most fly tipping is done at night, and it's key that those hotspot areas are well lit. We need more patrols in hotspot areas. We have flats that have nowhere to put their rubbish outside, and in the extreme heat, when we had 40 degrees, we'd got people, families living in flats with their rubbish, which is just awful. HIMOs are causing a huge issue. Something needs to be done about that when we're looking at planning applications. There needs to be suitable places for rubbish to be disposed of. Over on the Daventry district, we used to have the plastic recycling tubs, and that caused the biggest issue. Every time it was windy, they blew over and the recycling blew along the street where it stopped when it came to a hedgerow. I'm pleased to say that we now have wheelie bins, lidded wheelie bins, and that has eliminated so much of our litter. But it needs to be enforcement. You know, what are we doing? How much enforcement are we doing? And it's no good just relying on the refuge collectors. You know, they are running around as it is. They have not got time to gather all that information. It needs to be very clear on our website of how to report. I recently was told that it's no good just reporting. You then need to state that you're quite willing to be a witness. Maybe something easy on our website, that just a box, tick the box if you're willing to witness, and at least that will make the process a bit quicker. But you know, something's got to be done. I mean, Every street you walk around, especially in the town centre, is horrific. I've gone round with some of the councillors in Northampton and it is disgusting. I would not want to live looking at that. It is just awful. So, you know, I urge you please to support our motion and let's clean up West Northamptonshire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. Councillor Phil Larratt, I'd like to invite now on behalf of the administration response.
Thank you,
minutes.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with a lot that's been said tonight, and I thank Jane for her speech and presentation. I'm very familiar with the 6 circumstances that Councillor Russell talks about. I've visited the ward where she represents and have seen for myself, and I see it every day, the situation on Kingsley Park Terrace. I think the question of zero tolerance is very important, and I would like to address the issue of open recycling bins. Again, I'm familiar with the Wellingborough Road. Councillor Smith and I have visited that on several occasions, and we understand the problems that exist there, and I have to say that our wardens are doing a really good job. Like Councillor Purser, I was surprised to learn that we were actually dealing with 44 litter clearances a day. That is too much and is unacceptable. We've really got to tackle the problem, but that said, I think we are tackling it. We recognise that cleanliness is important to our residents and to our businesses, and there is many visible issues with litter and fly tipping which is unacceptable. Since this council came into being, the environmental health team and waste services team have worked closely together to address these issues and have developed a litter charter and a fly tipping charter to focus on the council's actions and resources with the objectives of making a difference. Enforcement action against littering and fly tipping is key as the key deterrent, and since April this year the council has issued a total of 123 fixed penalty notices for waste offences in West Northamptonshire. There's also a total of 31 active prosecution cases, the majority of which against fly tipping in the system. Communications regarding this are issued following each successful prosecution and widely shared on social media. The local shops that near me, Birchfield Road East, was a major problem, and I was reporting problems there week in, week out. Our wardens are up there going through the fly tips, and eventually it only stopped a few weeks ago following a really successful prosecution. That has worked, and that is the track we're going down. We've got to enforce. We are disappointed, Councillor Smith and I are disappointed at the amount of times cameras have been deployed, and we want to see an increased use of CCTV, and I'm pleased to say that we are talking to CCTV providers and service providers. We haven't got the time to sit down and go through all the video footage. It'd be better to get somebody to do that and then present us with the evidence for us to take further action. So that will enable us, hopefully, to undertake more enforcement, which, as I say, is what appears to work better than ever. There's all sorts of issues. I mean, in relation to the collection of abandoned shopping trolleys, there were arrangements in place pre-COVID, but they haven't been put back into operation due to operational constraints because we need staff to collect the trolleys and space to store them. But we are considering how we can reintroduce this across West Northamptonshire as soon as possible. Across the whole of West Northamptonshire, our waste teams work to a schedule which can be flexed to enable them to respond to issues when we're made aware of them. We encourage residents to report fly tipping using the council's app, and that we're looking to actually develop one single app for the whole of West Northamptonshire. Similarly, wardens are doing a fantastic job, and I don't envy them the task that they've got. You know, seeing them go through the rubbish that people tip out in order to gain evidence. I think they do a fantastic job, and we should really thank them greatly for what they do. But as I say, Mr. Chairman, I think we are doing a hell of a lot on this, and I don't think we will be supporting this motion. We will continue on the path we're going. We will increase our enforcement action. We will deploy more CCTV, and hopefully that will lead to a better situation across the whole of West Northamptonshire, because, as I say, it is unacceptable at this moment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Larratt. As the Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Randall, you have a 2-minute opportunity if you'd like to use that to respond or not. It's your choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't really think you really understood the motion, because all you're doing is saying what you're already doing, and what you're already doing clearly isn't working, which is why our town is so filthy and why we have had a resident speak today, and as she has said, many, many years she has been coming and speaking. So we're not getting anywhere. We're not cleaning our streets, are we? So what we were asked for was a summit to get everybody together, people around the table and residents and everybody else, to actually sit down sensibly, think about it and see what we can do. So, you know, our motion was really about getting those people around the table. And that is what I thought that you were going to respond to, not just tell us what you're already doing. As with the shopping trolleys, yeah, they do litter. They litter everywhere, and there is an app to come and collect them, but that isn't working either. You know, are we fining supermarkets for the dumping of these trolleys? I know Northampton Borough passed a motion in 2019, and it was covered by the Environmental Protection Act, which allowed trolleys to be collected and supermarkets to be charged. I don't think this is happening, and even if we were collecting on their behalf, were we charging them? You know, there's another revenue to be made there. So I urge you that, please, can we have this summit? Can we sit round with all those parties and look at what we can do better? Because we need to start cleaning up our town. It is a disgrace. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Randall. In line with the Constitution, I'll ask for a vote now. All those in favour of the motion that's been before us today, please raise your hand or vote. Or you can actually use, in fact, you can use your vote system here right in front of you, in fact, so even easier. How about that? So please do use your voting tablet in front of you. If all those in favour, yes, no, or abstention. Those against? If you're having difficulties, please do raise your hand. And any abstentions are in there as well. So we have the vote declared is 30 who support, 36 who do not, and 7 who abstain. So the motion has been lost. Thank you very much indeed. Item 7, Cabinet Member Reports and record decisions taken by the Cabinet. To give all members of the Cabinet the opportunity to present their reports to Council, I'm going to invite all Cabinet members to present their reports in turn before questions are asked. Roger. Therefore, Cabinet members, you may have up to 2 minutes each to present, and the remaining time will be given over to the questions. I hope this means we can fit in more questions today, and also ask members to be succinct with their questions and mindful of others who will also like to ask questions. So the shorter and the more briefer you keep your question, the more questions there will be. Councillor Nunn.
Thank you, Chairman. Quickly run through some highlights. First to mention, I think Mr Fitzpatrick has gone, but I don't think you'll ever find an interview where I've said that market traders have to put up with it. That's not a phrase I would use. What I think you'll find is plenty of interviews where made it clear that until some years ago, there was little regeneration going on in Northampton, and I would give myself some credit for having started that with a master plan fully backed by consultation, and the Future High Streets Fund and the Towns Fund fully backed by consultation. I noticed no other traders came along this evening. I think generally we have their support because Councillor Lister and Councillor Bowen before him have had endless meetings to ensure that this works as well as it could. The options are limited on locating the market, and the traders have been involved in that. Turning to the report, like you, I'm very proud of the way West Northants, both the council and the area as a whole, marked the mourning and the sad passing of the Queen. You'll note that I highlight some senior recruitment where we're filling gaps and building capacity that in areas where that's needed. With the financial position, I just want to be absolutely clear that this is an honest and open approach. The legacy councils, the position and the reputations meant that we have to do that. Other councils have come out in far worse situations since, but you will never, in my view, be able to point the finger at WNC and say that we're in denial, we're setting false budgets, or we've got unrealistic plans. We just cannot allow that to happen. I'm grateful for the mitigation actions that are already making fantastic progress, and along with the transformation projects, which I refer to very briefly, I can tell you there are around about 150 management actions across our directorates which are set to deliver savings. These are small transformation saving projects, none of which have an impact on the delivery of services. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nunn. Councillor Adam Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. It was a pleasure to bring through the first West Northamptonshire housing strategy at Cabinet last week, and I'd like to thank all members of the Council who attended that meeting for their constructive and largely positive comments. I'd also like to repeat my thanks to the 19 members of Overview and Scrutiny who attended workshop sessions. This was probably the most scrutinised piece of work in West Northamptonshire Council's short history to date, and I hope that the strategy goes on to be a success and reflect the input from cross-party members that we've had. Reflecting on some of the comments from Ms Cassidy made earlier about the sustainability of housing stock, I would draw members' attention to the comments on the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund. There is further work to do in improving the energy efficiency of our social housing stock, and I'm already in discussions with officers about future options that we may be able to bring forward to expand and enhance that scheme to make sure that we ensure that our housing stock is as energy efficient as possible. On libraries, I met recently with the 21 GLN network of libraries who represent the community-managed libraries of West Northamptonshire. We discussed their concerns, their wish to open their doors to members of the public as warm hubs, and we're investigating how we can support them in providing that support to their local communities. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rebecca Breeze.
Thank you, Chairman. My report, of course, is in the papers, and so I'm just going to give a couple of current updates. Aggregation of the 3 planning authorities into one continues with the announcement that the Daventry staff will be moving to Toaster along with their files, because of course they are a paper-based system, by the beginning of December this year. The improvement programme and its 6 work streams is becoming well embedded, and so that members have a chance to understand exactly what's going on and to question and explore it. There is going to be an all-member briefing on Wednesday next week at 3:30, where Colin Walker will be giving a presentation on the improvement plan, and then there'll be an open session for questions after that. So I hope that's well attended. I think it will be a very illuminating hour and a half for members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Breeze. Councillor Phil Larratt.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Just a couple of points. I'm pleased to report that we now have our own highways organisation. We're disaggregated from the north, and I'm pleased to say that Nick Henstock is now the Assistant Director of Highways and Transportation. It was previously led by Fiona Innett, who also covered waste. She has done a fantastic job in bringing us to where we are, and will continue as Assistant Director for Waste. And I think that's an emphasis of how much we put on that, emphasises how much we put on, recognise that service. New highways contract is up and running, and we're actually looking, Kier are actually looking at the moment about to works that we're going to undertake in the first 100 days, and this will be mainly bollard cleaning, white lining, footway clearance and vegetation clearance. That's happening as we speak. We've got issues with buses, and I'm trying to keep on top of that. Unfortunately, we keep getting notifications nearly every week from a bus company that they're withdrawing a service, but we're working on that. I'm talking to opposite numbers in Milton Keynes, and we've done a deal with Oxfordshire on another service. So we've still got a long way to go, but we are working on that. Can I just also say two things on the parks and open spaces? I welcome the enthusiasm of our park warden for all the work they're doing on the community garden project at Northampton Racecourse, and also I congratulate the operations of Everton Outdoor Learning Centre. It's a fantastic facility, and I'm really pleased that we're working to enhance the service that that provides. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Councillor David Smith, Cabinet Member for Community Safety, Engagement and Regulatory Services.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for the huge report. I'm sure you've found it useful. Just to highlight a few bits on there. The successful bid on the safer streets. So we've got the reinstatement of CCTV in Blackthorn and Bellinge. I think that's great news. Running through community engagement with the schools and things for the October's Youth Citizen Scheme. I think that's a good news, and great support for our youth. Going on through, there's lots on there. The successful marking of Ukrainian Independence Day, I think that was a great turnout, something for us all to be pleased to be able to support. Of course, we had the International Youth Day in August, and I don't know whether anybody got along to it, but I understand it was fantastic. Sadly, I couldn't get along because I was away. The resettlement scheme for Ukraine, so the Homes for Ukraine, that's still going very well. We do have an eye on any potential failing sponsors, so we're getting ahead of the game there. Again, I'm confident with the work that we're doing. But any questions, I'm sure you'll be putting them forward. Bridging hotels, that continues. Those have been extended through to next year now. We are getting movement of people moving through to permanent residence, but it's still a slow process. Going on through that, just something maybe a little dry for some people, but we've just got a no cold calling zone introduced into my ward in Woodford Hulse, which I think is useful because clearly residents were expressing concerns and we've been able to do something about that. Then moving through to regulatory services, I don't know if anybody saw the press release yesterday, but we had a successful prosecution of a takeaway business in Northampton who was fined £22,000 for their, well, quite frankly, putting our residents at risk with their quite revolting practices within their organisation. Anyway, that's all from me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Councillor Dan Lister, Cabinet Member for Economic Development, Town Centre, Regeneration and Growth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've all got the reports. I'm only going to provide updates on parts that have changed since it's been published. So the bike park, we completed all the final paperwork on Friday and it was officially opened on Monday. The Vulcan Works, we finally signed with the operators last Friday, so we still expect people to be joining by January 2023. Levelling Up Fund, there was a member briefing yesterday. There has been an email that's gone over to everyone, but this is key for our member engagement in terms of building up that pipeline. So when money comes forward again, we've got ideas from everybody, what they need in their community and what can fit in. So there will be some more guidance coming forward in terms of what you can submit into that. But equally, start thinking, start feeding back so we can make sure that goes in the pipeline so we're ready when some more money comes forward. Spun Arcade, there's no update on there, but I just wanted to assure the members down in Toaster direction who's the most concerned that Spun Arcade is still looking forward to go forward in October 2022. UK Share Prosperity Fund, we've also been awarded on top of what we've received another 1.4 million for rural shared prosperity, so that's only to be spent in rural areas. but complements some of the areas in the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. Just the last bit I want to raise is a big announcement. 2 days ago, we exchanged contract for the purchase of BHS, the BHS building. So we now own both the BHS building and, well, when we complete tomorrow, the BHS building, the Marks and Spencer site on Abington Street, which is a huge part of the jigsaw puzzle for us on regeneration of that area because it's a tired and old-looking building. So the plan is to knock it down and put something a lot better there. So that's all from me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lister. Councillor Matt Golby, Member for Adult Social Care and Public Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As noted in the report, there's an awful lot of work going on in my area at the moment, but I've got a couple of updates, if I may. The first thing is I'm pleased to report to Council that the Household Support Fund 3 scheme has been announced by Government as a part of the cost of living support package. The draft allocations and guidelines for the scheme from the DWP have been distributed with West Northants allocation of £2.6 million. The Household Support Fund 3 scheme will operate between the 1st of October 22 and 31st of March 23 and will complement our anti-poverty strategy. A report will be presented at Cabinet in October which sets out proposals for the allocation to support 17,500 households which acknowledge the increased hardship that families and individuals may experience over the period. The proposed schemes are based on our understanding of local challenges and have been informed by previous household support schemes. This will include the provision of food support for local children and receipt of free school meals, and I can therefore confirm that whilst the report will be presented to Cabinet for approval, we will be providing the support to eligible families for the October half-term. Just a couple of other things. The anti-poverty group will be convening on the 11th of October, and I'll be talking more about that linked with the next item. I've met with Andrew Lewis MP, with the Director, to talk about some of the pressures we're experiencing in adult social care and the implications of the Care Act on us as a local authority and indeed our partners across the East Midlands and nationally. And also finally, just a bit about public health. We have disaggregated the teams now and we have our own team for West Northamptonshire, and I've put the challenge to the Director that we embed public health across all of the council, and indeed what we were talking about earlier with fly tipping, public health might be a lens that we could use that to look at that issue and see whether we could leverage in any resource, you know, when we're talking about the impact and on what was described on people's lives, and whether we could work across directorates to do something about that. But there's a huge amount of work going on. I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Golby. Councillor Malcolm Longley, Member for Finance.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there's a lot in this report, a lot of detail here, and a lot of it will be affecting a lot of ward members in different ways. I would suggest that because of the detail, I'm not going to run through it all, it'll bore you stiff, but what I would like is that if anybody does have any detailed questions specific to their ward, please email me and I will, if I can't answer it tonight, please email me and I will do my very best to respond.
Thank you very much, Councillor Longley. Councillor Mike Hallam, Member for HR and Corporate Services.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to bring out a couple of points from my report to highlight them. The customer service roadshows are proving really popular. We've run quite a few now and we're getting some really good feedback. These are multiple multi-agency events and we work closely with the parish council in each given area. One parish council did get slightly confused and wondered why I wanted to run a councillor surgery in their patch. I didn't, and I don't. What I wanted to do, and I will still be doing, is sending in our customer service experts, along with some other agencies, to get to take our service out there to the people and get that early intervention that we know is really, really important in these challenging times, probably more important than ever before. Speaking of the sort of challenging times, I also just wanted to mention staff pay. You know, that's important too. We are getting closer, I think, nationally to an agreement with unions on the National Pay Award. Unison voted for it just this week. There are obviously more unions that need to be consulted with before we can move forward. But I wanted to remind people that we are, as an authority, committed to the National Pay Award plus 0.25%. Now, we've already anticipated a rise, with staff receiving a rise of 2.5% since April. So if the current rise is as expected, it will be equivalent to roughly 5% across the board. So staff will get roughly another 2.5%. I know it's a one-off payment, but they get roughly 2.5% plus any back pay. And that would be subject to obviously to the process. But importantly, I'd like to see that be able to hit payslips before Christmas, what I think would be really important. Likewise, we're really busy too. The customer service guys, I think, are busier than ever before. So if you do see them, give them a well done, because they're working incredibly hard, and I think they deserve it at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Now, we have questions here, or section report from Councillor Fiona Baker, who's unable to be with us this evening. Is Councillor Louisa Fowler going to take the questions there? Or like the 2 minutes, if you'd like. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. As Assistant Cabinet Member. Thank you.
Councillor Baker's delighted that for the first time we have a fully staffed leadership team. Rebecca Wilshire joined in on the 1st of September, Ben Pearson joined in August, and Tony Challoner has also joined us as Assistant Director for Commissioning and Partnership. Our new Assistant Directors will be working under Stuart Lackenby, and they bring a great depth of knowledge as well as a wide range of experience, creating a strong management team for children's services. And that means we're now well placed to make great improvements to our service. Despite the shortage of social workers nationally, there has also been an increase in the recruitment of social workers at NCT, providing more stability to the most vulnerable children in our care. The staff at the Children's Trust now report it is a good place to work and that they feel supported. It would be really helpful if all members could support the recruitment drive through their own social media channels so that we can draw new staff in. And it should also be noted that any criticism or negative comments about the hard work done by our dedicated staff does not make it any easier to recruit. As you will all know, Ofsted are currently visiting the team, and we hope that Councillor Baker will have positive news to bring to the Council at the next meeting.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fowler. Okay, that sums up the reports from Cabinet Members and Assistant Cabinet Member Louisa Fowler. Thank you for your help on that. We now have various members of the Council who'd like to ask questions of Cabinet Members. I would just remind you to be succinct if you can, because you obviously allow further questions to be raised by obviously colleagues on all parties. So please do be fair if you can. Councillor Jonathan Nunn, you have some questions from Councillor Wendy Randall, first of all.
Thank you, Chairman. I call all your sentiments to the passing of our dear Queen Elizabeth II, so thank you for that. WNC's financial position. Less than 6 months ago, we were told we had a balanced budget. Because of the failings of this Tory government, we are now in a dire situation. I think it's a dire situation because the way that you paint it as a 7.6 million overspend, you may not seem too bad, but then we've already taken 10 million from contingency. So does that mean that it's 17.6 million in Q1? And that's going to repeat itself or get worse in Q2, 3 or 4. And if it isn't very well explained. Fair funding. Fair funding. Does this government even know what fair funding is? We have had cuts year on year on year since this government has come into power. And the position we are in now is the position that this government has put us in. And all of our residents are now suffering. Looking at the polls today, I think the general public are thinking along the same way. Where are our MPs? Where are they? They're in talks with officers. But where are they? I have never heard one of them stand up in Westminster demanding more money for West Northamptonshire. Why aren't they? Because we clearly haven't got enough. We clearly haven't got enough to fund our adult social care. We clearly haven't got enough to fund our children's services. And it's going to get worse. So I'll leave that one. Then we go on to the website. The website is still poor. It's very difficult to negotiate. I get, even I try and work my way around the website. I have highlighted things and they're still just the same as they were when we launched the website. Special educational needs. You know, I welcome any SEN provision, but let's not forget all the children that are forgotten. We have many SEN children who aren't in any education at all, and the parents feel that their child does not matter. What are we doing with those children? Those parents are having a constant battle with WNC just to get them the education that they deserve. We seem to be in a complete mess with educational transport as well. I heard from our special school that 2 weeks into school, they'd still got 4 of their pupils that still hadn't returned back into school because the transport hadn't been sorted out. They also then told me if a child moves, it can take up to 8 weeks to get their transport back in place for their new address. That's 2 months out of school that these children are having. It's just not good enough. Monthly briefing newsletters are well received by councillors and by parishes, but from the parish's point of view, it isn't a two-way communication. It really is not working. They are beside themselves. They email officers on strategic things, they don't get response, they're feeling ignored. Maybe we could look at having a parish town council inquiry email for them to be directed to the right officers, because staff are changing so frequently now, they don't even know who to contact. Exit interviews, you mentioned exit interviews, I believe are done online and not face-to-face, and I don't know who looks at those exit interviews, but I am very concerned about the expertise that we are losing from this council. I don't know if the planning department moving to South Northants will affect any of our planning officers, but I know we have already lost some good officers, and I'm fearful that we'll lose some more. The closure of the Daventry District Council building announcement, I was appalled that councillors, staff and newspaper all seemed to get that brief on the same day. We had no prior notification.
Sorry, Councillor Randall, sorry, bear with me just a moment. This is your golden opportunity to ask a question. And if that question was coming to me...
Okay.
And if that question was
Okay.
coming to me, Councillor Randall, I would
Okay.
have to have been taking notes about 3,000 miles an hour, and I'm not entirely sure what the question was. So for your benefit, for the council's benefit, if you'd just like to sum up, that'd be brilliant.
I'll sum up. Why are we in this mess, and why didn't we know about it before? Who's making the decisions in this council? Is it councillors? Is it officers? Decisions seem to be being made, buildings being closed, and we don't know anything beforehand. So, you know, who's running it? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Nunn, you had a rather extended question there.
Yeah.
I have a couple other speakers, actually, or no speakers, sorry. Other questions, I mean, let's just keep it that way, who would like to obviously put them to you. Would you like to take them all in one go, or like to take them one at a time?
Anyway, I'm going to have a go at this, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
I did
fire
wonder
away.
if your clock had stopped, but like you, I was waiting for the question too. But let me have a go at what I would call some of the comments. Quite a few things here. 6 months ago, did you predict this 6 months ago? Certainly when your party came to comment both at the full council, I've taken a moment actually to look back at the YouTube of the full council and the cabinet, there was lots of comments, but most of those comments were you don't need these contingencies. Well, thank God we did. The answer to your question is yes, 17 million. The contingency has gone in. That's what the papers say. The contingency has gone in to report that figure of 7.6 million. There is some reduction being achieved against that, but yeah, that's exactly it. Thank God we made the allowance. Will that be every quarter? No, these figures are projected year ends. So that projection is a projection of a 7.6 million. Should probably be getting Councillor Longley to answer this actually, along with many of the other questions. But the 7.6 million is the end of year outturn. That's the figure that we refer to here. That's the one that matters. Let's look at some of the other things. I did think some of the early comments in your first few minutes were really about national politics, whatever you might think to whatever the government's doing. I'm sure we've all got different views. What I've got is a budget here. We are making representation to government, as Councillor Golby already said, to do everything we can in terms of their support. But actually, we have a budget. We are the custodians of the people of Northampton and West Northampton's money, and we are the custodian who has to deliver their services. So, coulda, shoulda, woulda, all the rest of it, Ukraine, fuel prices, we've just got to deal with what comes at us. But if you look at every council, don't please tell me that this could have been anticipated, because you had every opportunity to tell us that. What are we doing about special educational needs? You know as well as I do, we've seen a huge increase, and actually I can tell you that the teams are working incredibly hard to do everything we can, and that includes building a new school. Not only will that improve the quality of life of young people who are currently being shipped out of the county and having long drives every day, but actually it's going to save money too, because it is cheaper to be able to provide that more locally. So that's a win-win, and we're really proud of being able to continue to do that even under the current circumstance. I don't know if I can do much about the website. You don't like it? Tell me what you don't like. Just this constant running everything that we might do and our officers do down doesn't give me anything. Please email or give me a call and we can discuss what you don't like about the website. We know there's more to do. Not trying to hide from that. We've got a lot more work to do. And it's a little bit like the other examples that, I'm hearing stuff. We've had loads of this. I'm hearing about a care home, I'm hearing about staff, but we never get the specifics behind it. Honestly, really happy to go into these in detail, but it doesn't seem particular enough. Officer pressure, we know the officers are under pressure. Let's face it, Wendy, in this area, we used to have 30 directors, 30 cabinet members, and the previous councils, we've got about 10 of each now. So everybody is under mega pressure, as well as what Councillor Fowler just mentioned. I've mentioned some of the recent senior appointments, which will hopefully take the pressure off. And we know that Jane Carr is now a director of the Communities and Opportunities, which seems to be also helping us to focus and move everything forward. But yeah, everybody is extremely busy. Councillor Hallam might correct me, but I don't think your suggestion that we have huge staff changes, we're losing huge expertise and we've got massive staff turnover is correct. What we certainly are doing is a major restructure. Forgive me, I'm probably over time, but I'm trying to respond to the stuff that you gave me, frankly. Lodge Row was a shame. We have to do these things. We promised the people of West Northampton we would rationalise. We don't need acres of expensive office buildings. That was the one that was best done. The sad thing is that news started to be shared with certain members of senior management. One of them let the cat out of the bag. We weren't ready for that, and that's why it came out that way. You're right, it would have better been handled another way. We just weren't ready for that, so I'd accept that. Who runs this council? Members run this council, it's a member-led thing. But on the other hand, what I'm even prouder of is actually we have a fantastic working relationship with officers. And there is no officer in this council, I would hope, who doesn't feel free to speak up with their ideas, their suggestions, and know that they'll be listened to. Sometimes we want to think the unthinkable as well, and we welcome bold ideas. So actually, it's a really good collaboration of officers and members, ultimately with members taking the democratic responsibility in the leadership role. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Humphreys, you have a question for Councillor Nunn.
Councillor Nunn, thank you for your report. I was also going to ask you about lobbying MPs for more government money, but perhaps you can give us a bit of an insight into what action you're taking, given that we're now in absolute free fall in terms of the economy and our projected further spending need. But just on vacancies, it was good to read of the number of senior appointments recruited recently. It would be helpful to know the current number of vacancies. The Q1 corporate report presented last week to Cabinet highlighted a total of 2,372 full-time employees, but there's no dashboard for vacancy levels. Are they still around 500 as they were in June? To my maths, this is around a sixth of the workforce if these are full-time posts, and that's a considerable proportion. And are these posts just going to lie fallow as part of each directorate's need to mitigate financial pressures? Councillor Randall mentioned parish briefings. You say that the council has had positive feedback. It would be good to have that shared with members. But just one observation. Our council in the news section, the last part, always has the positive news, never the critical news stories, unlike what members receive in their weekly briefing. An entirely positive narrative is not a transparent one, which is why I suggested at Cabinet last week that the number of complaints should be included in the quarterly report, not just the level of customer satisfaction. As you observe in your report, we do have a duty to report fully, openly and honestly, and also to learn from our mistakes. Are you confident that we're doing this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nunn, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, some of these I think will go to colleagues. I mean, on the government thing, yes, as I say, we're lobbying government, but there is a danger that we look around saying, oh, this is all somebody else's fault, and this has got to happen, that has got to happen. We may have that view, might we? We may have that view, but actually, what good is it going to do? We'll keep doing that. We'll blast as hard as we can at government or anybody else. But actually, we've got our budget. We know what we have got. We know the services we have got to deliver, and we know we've got to cut our cloth. So we're pushing from both directions. But our primary focus is on ensuring that we have, if you like, a tight ship, for want of a better expression. In terms of vacancies, you might get a better answer on that. I don't know the current answer. Either Councillor Hallam or Councillor Longley may want to say something on vacancies. Parish briefings, a lot of the feedback we've had is emails to the comms department saying really glad that they've done it and so on, and I've had a couple. The best way to get that is to ask your parishes when you go along to the meeting, say, look, what do you think of this briefing? Is it any good? We would welcome suggestions through yourself, Rosie, Councillor Humphreys. We'd welcome suggestions through yourself as to what you think they want to see. I'm not sure about the news. Most of the items that come up there in both the members and the parish one, I always feel I've already seen, so I seldom click on the link and consider that. We've got to be fair on all things. I think we have to be careful also that it's quite easy for opposition councillors to try and drum up some media story that's sensational and appears to run the council down. That doesn't always reflect what's fair. So I'm going to trust comms' judgment. I don't interfere in that, but I will raise it in my weekly comms meeting tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sally Beardsworth, you have a question of Jonathan Nunn?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I'm sure you feel like me, the leader, that I'm very concerned over what control we have over the Children's Trust and its spending. As a corporate parent, we have a statutory duty to look after our looked after children, and yet we have so little input into the trust and how the finances are spent. It is a real concern to me over the future of our looked after children, and we have now over 1,000 children in our care. And with the added cost of living rises that are coming and people not being able to put their heating on in their homes, we could have a lot more children coming into our care through neglect. So I really do have grave concerns. I'm sure you do too.
Let me answer that briefly, and particularly in Councillor Baker's absence. That might otherwise have been for her. I think the Children's Trust are making good progress. We eagerly await the outcome of the current Ofsted, of course. The arrangement, particularly for a councillor like yourself, who was more used to it being an in-house service and having a more active involvement, will be alien, won't it? I get that. Let me just give you a couple of assurances. We are building a very constructive working relationship with the Trust. People are right to say we could get to the end of the year and just get a bill saying we need more money, and the financial side is important as well. Ofsted are looking very closely at the sharp end. That's to say children and families is their real focus. So they'll give us a good view on that. But in terms of that budget input as well, the Trust are voluntarily coming through our Star Chamber process. They've recently opened things up for our Assistant Director of Finance to have a very close look at all of their costs. Rebecca Wiltshire, we've mentioned, appointed, who worked for the Trust in Doncaster with some fantastic ideas, and they're opening up the doors again to listen to her and try and come up with ideas. So it's a proper collaboration and working relationship. Should Ofsted decide to upgrade, we will also be in a situation where we'll be working more separately than one full county-wide arrangement, and that, I think, will strengthen that relationship too. So what bothers me is the increase in the number of children in care. Absolutely. What bothers me is that initially it starts as a very restricted relationship. I think we're starting to see the limits of that, and we're doing that by the fact that every time they have contact from us, it's in a very constructive way. I think that's the consolation, hopefully, I can give you, Sally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nunn. Councillor Stone, you have a question, Councillor Nunn?
Yeah, 3 questions, if you don't mind. In terms of managing the budget better, we're looking forward to transformation projects, aren't we? And the biggest one and the most important one from my point of view is IT. So I'm just wondering when that's going to be scheduled in. I know it's going to be expensive, but it's got to be done, and I feel it should have been done already. In all the reports, it mentions a business intelligence unit, a sustainability team, and an economy team, all sounding marvellous. Could we have a bit more information about who they are, what they're bringing to the table, when we're going to meet them, what impact they're supposed to be having? And finally, could I just ask, you said we are all members, the council, we're driving the council, all our members. Can you tell me why, then, civic events have become party political events and why opposition members are not being invited to really important events like the Remembrance Service for our late Queen? It's something that our residents expect us to attend, and it's something that we would want to attend, and we didn't get an invitation. And some of us, when we turned up at the church, hadn't been allocated any seating. This is a new thing for me. As a county councillor and a borough councillor, I was used to civic events being for the people, not for the party. And that's what I want to see.
A couple of answers.
Councillor Nunn, can I just hold you there a moment? Councillor Stone, sorry, you have a point there about the civic events, and I think you might have been indicating the service of prayer and remembrance that was held at All Saints. It was a publicly attended service, so all members of West Northamptonshire, and indeed anyone from anywhere, could attend. And I know that myself attended, and also with my vice chairman, and many members of the council also attended. So please do feel that you were included. Everyone was included. It was a public invitation, and obviously no one was prepared for the loss of Her Majesty. So it has to be very much borne in mind that these were services that were carried out without plenty of notice, if you like, for obvious reasons, but everyone was incorporated and invited, and we had many, many members of the public. In fact, there were indeed thousands of members of West Northamptonshire, good residents who turned up. So please do not feel that you were excluded, as many, many members of the public and councillors also attended. Councillor Nunn, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Another point I was going to make on that is, in fact, I think the invitations were very limited. The Lord Lieutenant was the real driving force behind that. I think issued 2 member invites. I think just the Chairman and myself.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. In my absence, I couldn't be there that day, the Deputy Leader. There's no change, though, from our side, and that was the nature of how he arranged that. We did put that in the councillor briefing, the weekly briefing, I'm pretty sure. Plus, I think there was an email from the Lord Lieutenant's office within the council making everybody aware. I didn't necessarily say that all members run the council. We're the administration. That's down to the number of votes. But certainly it is a member-driven council. In terms of the other teams you mentioned, the sustainability team, very proud of that. That's growing. And you might have attended the briefing on net zero versus carbon neutral this week. But happy to provide a bit more background on what the work of these. You mentioned too sustainability, the business information. Was there a third one you mentioned? It's the economy team. That's it, economy team. Yeah, very happy. They work in the area that Councillor Lister is responsible for, but we can think of a way if we do a briefing or a briefing note or something in the newsletter or something. Happy to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I have some clarity? Councillor Meredith, you raised your hand to speak. Who is your question directed to?
Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much indeed. I'll call you at that point. We have questions now for Councillor Adam Brown. Question from Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions, if I may. The social housing on Darlington Grange, when will it be depleted? We were told about this 8 years ago on the Borough Council, and yet we still haven't seen a brick laid yet, I don't think. So maybe you could tell us when it's coming into fruition. That's the first one. And just following on from the comment of Councillor Nunn as regards to the carbon neutral and net zero training session, it was unfortunate there's only 22 councillors there out of the 93, which I thought was not very good, really, because it's our future. It's our future we're looking at. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bearsworth. Councillor Brown, would you like to take that question?
Thank you, Chairman. In terms of the Darlington Grange development, it is still in the thoughts of NPH, but we don't have a completion date. I'll go back to them for more details and see if I can provide you with a clearer timescale on the development. In terms of the net zero versus carbon neutral briefing, not my brief, and sadly I wasn't able to attend. It's sad to hear that only 22 people did. It is a very important issue.
Thank you. Councillor Flavel, I think you raised your hand. Was it for a question to Councillor Brown?
Yeah, actually, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much indeed. No, it wasn't, but I raised my hand just so that I could have a question at some time. Would it be convenient if I asked a question now to Councillor Lister?
If you bear with me, we're not to that point at that moment, but I'll bring you back in at that point.
That's
Thank
fine.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Rebecca Breeze, questions from Councillor Beardsworth.
Thank you very much. When and how does the Committee for Planning Policy consult with housing about housing needs and implementing our agenda on the Green Agenda?
Sorry, can you just clarify the question? When does the Planning Policy Committee
consult with housing to find out housing need, and the Green Agenda as regards how we're building our houses in the future to make them insulated and better to cope with the cost of living rising?
The Planning Policy Committee looks at planning policy as it comes forward. I think that the issues you are referring to are more of a scrutiny function. The planning policy is a subset of Cabinet which looks at policy as it comes forward and as a decision-making group. I think that what you're referring to is rather more of a scrutiny function.
I would have thought if you were setting policy for this council, it would be your job to talk to housing to find out need, what sort of housing we need, and actually to look at the Green Agenda to find out how many houses are being built in the private sector and in the public sector that have got these built-in homes for life, you know, where you've got doors are wider to take Zimmer frames, light switches that are lower down, all these sort of things that would let people stay in their homes longer. I mean, that's the policy of the council, I thought, to actually deliver these things.
Just last week at Cabinet, we had the housing strategy.
Councillor
I'm a bit bemused
Breeze,
by the question.
Do carry on. Thank you.
Oh, and that's my point, sir. We
Thank
had
you.
a housing strategy which came to Cabinet last Friday evening. I think Councillor Beardsworth was there, which looked at housing needs and the delivery thereof.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Humphreys, do you have a question for Councillor Breeze?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Given that there's an open session next Wednesday, I'll reserve most of my questions, but just a couple. Thank you for your succinct report. Members will find, I think, the open session extremely welcome because from a ward councillor's perspective, planning continues to be the area where the council's reputation is weakest, quite frankly. In fact, it's so poor that even cabinet members have been overheard at a public consultation in my ward on a major renewable project telling the agent that our planning service is not in a good place. This is really regrettable given the dedication, expertise and workload of our planning officers. In particular, as far as I'm aware, conservation areas in the Daventry area have a particularly burdensome workload. So I was concerned to see that a conservation post is being shelved. Perhaps you could kindly comment on that. And just on planning policy, what you didn't mention in your report, that since May there's only been one planning policy meeting, which I think was in June, and that this really is seriously worrying. Can you comment on this? This needs to be an effective committee informing the emerging sustainability agenda and the production of the strategic plan. So thank you if you could comment on those. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As planning policy comes forward, it is looked at by the committee. I can't see a point in having a committee if there is no policy to actually look at and agree on. We do have a very full agenda in October looking at, for example, the employment sites SPG in Toaster and various other items. In terms of the planning department, yes, it is in a difficult place. There is a very, very hot market in planners, not just in local planning authorities, but out in the wider world amongst planning agencies. So it's a bit of a merry-go-round at the moment, but it is stabilising under Colin Walker. We have got new staff starting, and I hope that as a result of the policies we're implementing, that we will start to see an improvement. But turning around a planning department that was 3, actually 3.5, into 1 is a very big job. And because of the need to be safe and legal back in 2021, there was no preparatory work done in planning and to bring it together. So it has been problematic, and I would be the first to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Councillor Breeze. Sorry, Councillor Humphries, do you have...
Well, I just want to say, I just find it amazing that there was nothing to discuss July, August and September for the Planning Committee. That there must have been something that could have be put on the agenda, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts, did you have a question for Councillor Breeze?
I do, just really briefly, and it probably is a question I would have asked to other Cabinet members, so we can ask in the same one. You mentioned a briefing that's next Wednesday. I'm finding it increasingly difficult to make briefings because they're given a couple of days' notice to the meetings, and I can't plan that with my employer, and I can't plan working arrangements with childcare around them if I only know a couple of days before. So a plea to yourself and others, if we could have some consultation with regards to those briefings. With the Sustainability Working Group, I have to say the use of a doodle poll, the Anti-Poverty Working Group, the use of a doodle poll to check the best day. I get you'll never always support me or my family or other members' families, but some support on that would be really useful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions to Councillor Phil Larratt. We have Councillor Roberts. Do you wish to raise one?
I do, Chair, and if you forgive me, there are questions, but I need to make some statements to make the question make sense, so just bear with. I've already mentioned...
Just a little reminder, this is a question opportunity.
Yeah, so I have to make a statement to make the question make sense.
If you can keep
just
that
bear
very
with
brief,
me, I can.
please. Thank you.
Councillor Larratt said the active travel scheme for Billing Road is off the scheme, off the table. There were really unhelpful press reports that got confused over the last few weeks. My question is, we've said that it's off the table, but the active travel fund that we've got from the Department for Transport says that we must deliver the scheme that's presented. The scheme that's presented is for the Billing Road corridor. So have we checked that we're able to do that? What if we can't do it? And what if consultation on the new proposal is only attached to the much needed junction at Rushmere Road, but we're not allowed to spend the money on that? Have we done any of those checks? I can't get an answer to that question. As far as you talk about the flood team in your report, unfortunately the problems in the flood team have meant that recently the flood department couldn't respond to a planning application in my ward in time. They openly accepted that they couldn't. After that they objected to the planning application, but they couldn't do it in time. When are we going to address the issues within that team? I've got so many outstanding queries with regards to roadblocks at Southbridge. I've got no answers coming through on that. I've got no response regarding cycle path clearance. I've got no response regarding tree maintenance on the highway. Can you promise me and do some work with me to get all my current outstanding queries answered, please? Because we're looking at 6-8 months of no responses on those subjects. With VOI, can we see a report on the updated data on how they've got on and how the trial, because it was extended indefinitely. Can we see some data around that, please, because we haven't had any? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Larratt, would you like to take all the questions together or one per...
I'll try. I think I've got most of them. Rushmere Road, Rushmere. The Billing Road corridor is definitely off the agenda. Making it one way and banning transport to the hospital and all sorts of things like that. That scheme is dead, buried and will not go ahead. We are looking at alternatives that include the Rushmere Road junction and more, and there has been consultation, there has been a meeting, Councillor Purser was there, other members were there, I don't know where you were, Julie was there, but there have been consultation meetings, Mr. Chairman, just the one so far, and there is another one coming up fairly soon. I have a briefing tomorrow with officers, and hopefully I'll get the details myself, and I don't know when that meeting will take place, but it will be coming up. Yeah. With regards to the flood team, unfortunately, that team has been completely and utterly devastated. We have one person running that team on her own. The consultants that we were using to do flood investigations weren't performing either. We had to make a very difficult decision, and we decided there and then to take it back in-house. We're still recruiting. We've had some good applicants, but I'm afraid we've not got there yet. But it is going ahead. Hopefully when we've got the full team in place and these unfortunate situation that we had with that particular planning application, we will be overcome, and I can only apologise for that. I hear what you say about the issues. I've been trying to get information about Southbridge and the closure of the road there. There's a big issue about it's not just highways, it's the building that is causing the highway to be closed. But until I understand that's resolved, and hopefully it will be reopening very soon, and that lane closure will stop. But it is a question I'm continually asking, and I've been asking it for a while now. But it is being addressed. I understand and I appreciate frustration. I've got frustrations as well. But you have to think where we're coming from as an authority, and with regard to staffing. We've got a new highways team. It's working very well together, but there are a lot of gaps, which again we are recruiting to. Contract management is an area where we're recruiting to. There is a hell of a lot going on, but I'm happy to talk to the member about her particular issues and what issues it is she wants to address.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hack.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you, Chair. A new WNC West strategy is being developed. What is the timescale for that, and how are residents and councillors going to be involved, Mr. Chairman, through you? And the second question is following, it's on your report, litter and cleansing. We've talked about litter, and you've mentioned that you do regular walk around estates, and the recent walk you did was on Wellingborough Road in my ward. Do you really think it's clean and green? We are suffering, my residents are suffering of mountain of fly tippings and army of rats now. What are you going to do about it? My residents don't want to be fobbed off. I mean, we've heard many things that is in the pipeline, but they want action now. And are you aware that some of the reports we do on fly tipping, through members' inquiry, it's taking longer than 10 days. So I just wanted to answer on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Larrard.
Sorry, Councillor, what strategy was it you asked me about? The waste strategy, yeah. We are going to be developing a waste strategy. It hasn't got off the ground as yet. We haven't gone into even the fact that setting a timeline or setting out how we're going to do it. All we've decided is that we desperately need a waste strategy, and we'll commence work on that this year and move forward. Ask me again next meeting, and hopefully I'll have something for you. But we haven't got into that detail. The only thing we're doing is actually developing that strategy. You asked me about the Wellingborough Road in your ward. I have to say, I drove along there on Sunday evening, and knowing we'd got this meeting this week, I took, as I drove along, I took great interest to look at the state of the road. Bearing in mind it was a Sunday night after a busy weekend, I was quite amazed at how clean it was. Personally, yes, I'm not saying there wasn't problems. There was a lot of rubbish around one litter bin in particular, but I have to say, in general, as I drove up that road, maybe I missed a few, I don't know, but anybody driving up there like I did, it wasn't that bad. I hear what you say about rats. I'm not aware of a problem with that, but if there is a problem, let me know, and I'm sure Councillor Smith will see what we can do about that. But yeah, fly tipping remains a problem. We've got massive problems off the Wellingborough Road with fly tipping, and we've got problems with people doing litter picks and the bags not being picked up. you know, although we are trying to get on top of that very quickly. But yeah, please, you know, report these things and let me know. But I have to say that I was quite impressed on Sunday night, considering it was after a very busy weekend.
Thank you, Councillor Larritt. Councillor Keith Holland-Delamere.
Yeah. So I note the contents on bus strategy. Can I just ask the Councillor Larritt, when will the co-design work discussions with the bus operators for a sustainable network be shared with the bus strategy group? We've had 2 meetings cancelled and we keep on getting deferred. I note the discussions regarding the routes 200 and 500 from Daventry and Brackley to Banbury. Councillor Larritt will be aware of proposed cuts by Stagecoach at the end of October. Of particular concern is the removal of the 88 from Toasters to Northampton Sunday service. Given that this issue lies entirely within WNC's area, what discussions have taken place about the removal of this provision, which will cut the Sunday public transport links between the south of the district and Northampton? There's been a number of issues with the Northampton service in terms of its reliability, cancellations, a deteriorating maintenance of the bus fleet. I've been on buses where coolant has been leaking from the bus. They've got problems with driver recruitment and retention. With so much reliance on one bus operator for our strategy, we really do need to be looking at how we can broaden our approach on the delivery of a sustainable and environmentally friendly bus transport network for our area. With the fact that all of this reliability problems are taking place, you've now got no alternative for many people to use cars instead of public transport because of the frequency of cancellations. And what measures have been taken to really make those representations to Stagecoach about the, frankly, at times appalling service that we're experiencing in Northampton for our bus users? Thank you.
Thank you. Before you reply, Councillor Larritt, we have councillors 2 minutes left of this session. So, in line with the Constitution, Councillor Larritt, if you'd like to answer the question, and then obviously we'll have to take the next item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, the bus strategy, we unfortunately haven't got any staff at the moment. We had one officer who worked for the north and the west, has now transferred to the north. So we are struggling, although he is trying to help out as best he can. So we do have that problem. I couldn't agree with you more on the quality of the buses. You know, I think Stagecoach let Northampton down. Their actions are unacceptable. You know, how many times do I see former Lothian buses polluting Northampton because that's they take their good buses, put them elsewhere, and we end up with the rubbish. It isn't acceptable, and we've really got to work on that with Stagecoach. So I couldn't agree with you more. We need another operator to come in and sort that out. With regards to the number 88, can I get back to you on that one? That's one I'm not totally familiar with, although I've been dealing with others. But yeah, I'll come back to you on that one and let you know what it is we're actually doing. I'll leave it at that for now, Mr. Chairman, but as Keith knows, he can approach me at any time.
Thank you very much, Councillor Larritt. So in line with the Constitution, I'd like now to complete the questions and to now take record decisions of the Cabinet meetings that were held in July and September. They are published here, and I'm sure many members have also been following them either virtually or in person. And from page 79 onwards, I'd just like to take your approval that the meeting accepts the details as printed here. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to an end of the item. And before we start item 8, I will break for a comfort break for 10 minutes. So please feel free to stretch your legs. I do encourage you. Today is National Heart Day, so please do feel free to get up and exercise. It is right On to time that we will run out of time for the entirety of the items of the business. So, item 8 is the cost of living increase and how West Northamptonshire Council is supporting the residents. I'd like to invite Councillor Mike Hallam to introduce the report and move the proposal. You have 5 minutes. Councillor Mike Hallam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Firstly, I welcome all opinions and ideas on this really difficult topic, whether that be councillors, officers, community groups or individual residents. And I know we heard from one that came to speak earlier on, so thanks for coming along to make your contribution. Nobody predicted a global pandemic, and nobody predicted that shortly afterwards we'd be faced with the biggest global conflict in Europe since 1945. So the solutions we need are international, national and local. So what can we do locally? Well, locally, our customer service team are working incredibly hard. When you look at the spread of calls and where they're coming from, it's not necessarily all the sort of areas that you might expect or the demographics of people that you might expect. We're getting quite a few from areas that would probably be perceived as wealthy. So what we are doing, though, is getting out there into communities with our customer service, our multi-agency roadshows, and we're getting that early intervention. Often it's quite frustrating for our staff when people are ringing us and it's almost too late. Had we had that early engagement, we'd have been able to help better. One of the first things as a council that we did commit to was an anti-poverty strategy, and we committed to that very early in our inception, way before any invasions of Ukraine. So that's produced lots of ideas and plans, and I'll ask Councillor Golby to talk about that because I know he's overseeing that, and there's a lot of detailed work gone into it. The anti-poverty strategy meeting that I know everyone's looking forward to, a date for your diary is the 11th of October. And that really is a place for those ideas and those things that we've already been working on, and for new ideas. It's an opportunity to evaluate those original ideas and look at how we might work some of those new ideas and get some plans around that too. So I know people are looking forward to that date, but ideas are absolutely welcome, and we can evaluate them properly at that time. Mr. Chairman, conscious of time, I'm happy to propose that and then look forward to the debate.
Thank you very much, Mike Hallam. Councillor Hallam. I'd like to invite Councillor Matt Golby now to second the proposal. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks, Councillor Hallam. I'm very pleased to second this paper that we have before us this evening and talk about some of the other detail that's perhaps not captured in here. I think it's a credit to the council, a credit to the leader, actually, that really made us put together the anti-poverty strategy, really made that a priority for the council as a new administration to get going as soon as we possibly could. And as Councillor Hallam mentioned, who would have foreseen the position we are in now globally and nationally as well. So I'm really pleased that we've been able to get some work underway quite early doors and deal with set to work on dealing with some of the issues facing our residents. As Councillor Hallam mentioned, we've got the session on the 11th of October, and I just wanted to make the point also that we don't necessarily need to wait for a meeting, wait for an opportunity like this evening to either bring a motion or have a meeting and start to talk about things that we need to do. The point I want to make this evening is that there's an awful lot of work going on. Some of it's captured in the paper, but also I'm privy to the Anti-Poverty Strategy Action Plan, and I've got that here before me today, and it captures over 100 action points that is already going on. You know, working with across our partners and stakeholders that have been a part of the anti-poverty group. So I really want to emphasise there is a huge amount of work going on. I'll list some, and I'm sure my time will probably run out. But we've talked about establishing a West Northampton Alliance, learning from some of the other areas and the frontline services for West Northampton, essentially involving training sessions for anyone who's regularly having conversations with residents who are presenting with a range of social welfare issues to many of the services across our system partners. We've talked about the distribution of the Household Support Fund. I've already mentioned that, and I think we've done a pretty decent job as a council of making that money available. We continue to work with the Food Aid Alliance in West Northamptonshire, which is an alliance of over 40 food aid providers, providing practical support to people across our patch in poverty, focusing on immediate food poverty and long-term food aid. A key action from the strategy was to ensure that those in hardship know where to access support services. We talked about the website earlier, and the cost of living webpage has been developed to draw together support and services that are available. Money and Debt Working Group has been set up, inclusive of both internal West Northampton Council services and external community and voluntary organisations to look at money and debt information and advice services across West Northamptonshire. Work has also begun on creating a sustainable approach to address the shortfall of immigration support. We continue to support to develop our existing neighbourhood hubs, building on the Homes for Ukraine library hubs and the West Northampton programme, which is an asset-based community development programme focusing on our highest deprived areas. A working group has also been established to focus on fuel poverty and winter pressures. There are a range of internal and external stakeholders in this group, and some of the points they're picking up is around communications. Talking about the Warm Spaces initiative that has been mentioned, Councillor Brown mentioned earlier. This is something we're already engaging on with some of our partners like NHFT. We're working with our libraries to make those available, and some more details on this initiative will come out soon.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor
Thank you. Lots of work.
Thank you. In terms of members of the Council who wish to comment on this item, I have a fairly lengthy list already, but if any others who would like to speak, please do raise your hand and indicate that to members of the DSS team up here. Okay, Councillor Jamal Al-Ahwabi.
Thank you, Chair. There was an issue with the Household Support Fund. The local authority was paid to administrate the scheme. The NCF was paid to administer the part of the scheme. Small voluntary sectors organizations were not paid to deliver the scheme. This meant that some organizations that participated did so at their own expense and at the cost of not delivering their own services. The government chose the least effective and the most expensive way to distributing food vouchers. They clearly want recipients to feel like the terribly grateful poor. It would have been cheaper, simpler, more effective to put the money straight into the bank account of the eligible recipients. There was no need to make pensioners travel to the post office. There was no need to make people queue at their local charity. There was no need to provide opportunity for fraud. Added to that, there were a large number of people who didn't get vouchers. The 18 years plus caregivers and the 16 to 18 years old living in support housing being two groups that I know about. Others were single parents, moms who just didn't receive the information. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Daniel Stone.
Thank you. I wonder if the Cabinet members are aware that people living in HIMOs are being charged an additional £100 a month for rent to cover energy costs. I know a family whose rent is just, they have two tiny little box rooms with a child in one of them, where the rent has just gone up from £650 a month to £850 a month. You tell me how you're going to support that family. I think what we really need, of course, is a general election. Labour is 33% up in the polls. We need a general election.
Councillor Stone.
In the meantime,
Councillor Stone, sorry.
I'm asking questions.
Yeah, Councillor Stone.
Meantime,
Councillor Stone, thank you. It's not a question point, it's obviously a comment you're making
I've got
here. I
lots
appreciate
of questions.
That's why I'm only raising the point that we obviously have a lot of work on the agenda here tonight, and clearly, if you'd like to ask a question for your colleagues' benefit, if you can keep it succinct. Thank you.
I'm asking questions. Is the Cabinet member aware that the Living Wage Foundation living wage has gone up to £10.90? And can he assure us he's going to be holding the line on that one? Is the Cabinet member amenable to ideas like, before we have the general election, using energy savings such as the big switch used by Greenwich, helping people leave their expensive cars at home and introducing flat rate day fares, as they've done in Manchester? Would he consider helping key workers by giving them free fares so they can get to work, like they've done in London? Will he consider making more efforts to take our services back in-house, cut out the profit-chasing middleman, and bring back pride in locally delivered effective services? Could I ask the Cabinet member if he would be prepared to learn from other authorities so that we stop fiddling around at the edges and really engage with transformation?
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, with the announcement of the Household Support Fund 3 that Councillor Goldby mentioned earlier, we need an urgent evaluation of Household Support Fund 2, and I would ask that's on the Anti-Poverty Working Group meeting, on the agenda for that meeting on the 11th. I welcome the report and I look forward to the Anti-Poverty Working Group. It's no secret I've championed the success of that group, and I feel that it works together better than any or some of the groups that have been set up previously. But I want to understand what both Cabinet members feel are the tangible items that this council has delivered. So a lot of the report talks about what we've received in and how we've distributed it. But it's not really about the activities that we're doing. One thing that I've asked us to do, and I beg of us to do it, and some might say, well, why is it important a line in a report, is that we urgently need a poverty impact assessment in every Cabinet and Council report that we produce, because we have to cross-check everything we do and every decision we make as to whether or not it aligns with that strategy. And a failure to do so means that we're not looking at whether the decisions we're making are impacting the poverty of our residents. And if we are going to, and a decision is going to impact them, then we need to look at mitigation for that. And I plead again for that to be in the report. It's not there at all. None of the work and the announcements in the mini budget support wealth creation or wealth distribution. We've got to look at how we're going to do that as a local authority with the limited crumbs that we're given by the government themselves. One of the last questions I've got is that, can we look to try to understand whether or not this strategy and the work that we're doing is actually going to achieve tangible outcomes? What are we going to do? How are we going to measure that? I don't know the answer to it, but hopefully we can deal with that on the working group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Randall. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Bidsworth.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to receive this report. I'm really pleased that we've got some way to go now. And with the motion I'm putting forward later this evening, hopefully we can get things off the ground. As you can hear from a lot of the other councils, there's a lot of work to do, a lot of things to do, and lots of gaps that we need to make sure that aren't there. So I'm really pleased with this coming forward tonight. I'm glad it's done now, and hopefully we can move forward on the 11th. And I'm very pleased to say that the Hope Centre has agreed to actually host it, so we can go there and actually see their working. So I think it'll be a really good opportunity for councillors to see the working of the Hope Centre as well.
Thank you. Councillor Rosie Humphreys.
Thank you, Chair. I think most of the points I was going to raise have already been covered, so I'll just be very brief. The mention of the Poverty Hurt scheme, which was supposed to be live from the 1st of September, we haven't had any information about that. Is that actually happening or not? It looked a bit of an idea, but if you have got any update, that would be useful.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis Meredith. Okay, you're on the list to speak. Councillor Adam Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. Delighted to, again, comment on this report following its presentation at Cabinet. I think it sets out quite a significant list of actions taken to date, and I do think comments suggesting that things still need to get off the ground are somewhat unfair. Clearly, we've taken significant action to date, but there's a lot more yet to come. Just returning to a point raised by Councillor Stone during the debate around people living in HMOs and an alleged extra £100 per month rent that they've been asked to pay. If that's in contravention of their tenancy contract, we do have a private sector housing enforcement team. I hope that Councillor Stone's already raised that with them rather than simply raising it on the night. If the answer that she hasn't got from our private sector housing enforcement team it isn't satisfactory, then by all means come to me. We can set up a meeting, we'll look into it. If that's a widespread practice, it would concern me greatly. But Council has relatively limited powers in terms of the action that it can take against landlords. If the landlord's acting lawfully, there will probably be next to nothing we can do. However, we can look into cases to see if there is evidence of malpractice, and I'd happily look into it for her.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. Any further members of the Council who'd like to speak? Okay, Councillor Mike Hallam, would you like to respond to the debate?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I thought it was generally quite a useful debate. Councillor Al-Habi, we couldn't do direct payments, as you suggested. We did ask a couple of times and were told that was a no from the government, so we can only work within the remit that we've got. There are lots of learnings from the Household Support Fund, though, and it's great to hear from Councillor Golby earlier that Household Support Fund 3 is now here. Councillor Stone, it's all well telling me about an additional £100 a month rent on energy costs, and I sympathise with people that are having increased bills and hardships, but that's not enough information for either me or one of our customer service team to help. So there's lots of questions that crops up. Does their rent currently include bills or not? What does their rental agreement say? There's lots of other questions around that. So just to throw a statement out there is not really helping anyone, and it's certainly not helping those people. Let's get some full information. Let's get one of our customer service representatives engaged, and let's see how they can help those people. And I'm happy to work through that with you. You talked about pay commitments. I think I said it earlier in Cabinet Member reports. Our commitment is to national pay agreement plus a quarter. Our commitment stands. That is, if the £1,950 one-off payment is, not one-off payment, the £950 payment is accepted by the unions, we'll get that into bank accounts by ahead of Christmas, and that will help lots and lots of hard-working people in this authority. As for your comment on profit-chasing middleman, my goodness, Mr. Chairman, you'd probably have to rule me out because we'd be here all night debating this. But does that sort of comment really fit with the Nolan principles of public life? Does that comment really fit with all the hard-working people in this town that make profit and reinvest that? But profit, unfortunately, like it or not, makes the world go round. And to slag off anybody that's chasing profit, well, there's lots of business people in this room that are chasing profit, but add lots of value as well. Councillor Roberts, some sensible suggestions, I think. The tangible outcomes one is the one that I'm really interested in. How can you measure something that's such a complicated area? And I really appreciate, and I know Councillor Golby will as well, your feedback on exactly that. What, your input into how we can get to some tangible outcomes that we can measure, because it is really, really difficult. It could be that we look at, customer service calls, the spread of the calls, how calls are going down. It could be to look at that, but it's not as solid as it could be. So it's one for a discussion point. Councillor Beardsworth, you mentioned the Hope Centre. Well, what a great job I think everyone thinks that they do in this town. And they've actually been involved from the very early inception of this project. Again, way before Vladimir Putin decided to illegally invade Ukraine. So there's lots and lots of ideas here. I think Councillor Goldman mentioned a little bit about warm banks, which I know is mentioned in a motion later on. That's something that we're actively looking at. Actually, Councillor Golby and myself had a presentation on it and how it might work. So that's certainly going to be one of the items that gets discussed at the meeting on the 11th. I think that summarises everyone. There was a lot, and I was typing furiously, so if I missed anyone, I apologise. But I'm sure it'll be scooped up on the 11th of October.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hallam. I'd now like to ask for a vote. In line of the units you have for your iPads down below you here, yes, no, or abstentions. Please make sure you're voting now. Any problems with voting, please raise your hand. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I seem to be unable to vote.
Sorry, Councillor Hallam. Sorry, Councillor Hallam, can you repeat that, please?
I seem to be unable to vote, but I obviously
Okay.
vote in favour of my own report.
We'll just check that. Paul? Okay, the motion is carried. Well, the cost of living increase, item 8 is carried. And the votes were 60, remind me, Paul? 68 for. None against and one abstention. Thank you very much. Okay, item 9, we move to Pension Committee Annual Reports 2021-2022. I'd like to invite Councillor Malcolm Longley to introduce a report and move the proposal. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Well, this report I was going to report on, had it been last week, it would have been a very, very straightforward report to report on, because it would have been a very good news story, and I would have thought it would have been fairly simple. Events, of course, of last Friday have changed things somewhat. So I'll start with where we stood before last Friday, and then try and make some sense of what I think is where we are now. This report is very much a statutory situation, and to really, if you're really into it, then you need to look at the background papers in 8.1, a huge volume of stuff, and I don't suppose many people are going to look at them. Nonetheless, there's a lot of information in. Now, in the pension, we actually invest in around about 10 investment categories, all sorts of things. Some are gilts, some are American stocks, all sorts of things. And the percentage covered, in other words, the cover that's of the pension fund, has been steadily rising for some years now. And at the last quarter, previous quarter, it stood at 108% covered. Very good. At the last meeting, we had another estimate of that, and that was 118% covered. Absolutely excellent. That's probably, if anything, too much. But nonetheless, that was good news. Now, so that's where we stand on that. So that's very good. Now, come Friday's announcements, clearly that's affected these investments. I cannot tell you the impact of that at the moment. What I would say on this, because I know that Councillor Catherine Russell over there is very concerned. She's on the committee the same as I am. We're both thinking, where is this going to go? And the reality is we've got to wait and see. We don't know where it's going to go yet, and wait and see. The good news is that we're very well covered. And so of all the pension funds, if we were down around 60, 70%, then I'd be very, very, very concerned indeed. At 118, we're as well placed as we are likely to be. That's all I can say on that. So as soon as we know where we're going, we will very rapidly know that. We've got excellent advisors in Mercer, and we've got an excellent team, particularly under Mark, who is our pensions man here. They're as good as we're going to get. So we're in a good position. Don't know where we're going to go on with the impact of that. As soon as we do know, I'm going to be the first to tell you. Chair, that about sums it up, really.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Longley. Councillor Phil Bignell, I think, is going to second the proposal. You have up to 3 minutes. Councillor Bignell.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I would like to second this motion and reserve my right to speak.
Fine, thank you very much indeed. Any members of the Council who wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand and draw attention to members of the DSS team up here. I have 2 speakers already. Councillor Catherine Russell.
Thank you very much. Councillor Longley has stolen my thunder, obviously, and because he doesn't have a crystal ball, I can't really be asking him questions that I intended to, other than at the briefings that I've attended to it as a member of the committee. It's been very clear that up until now, West North Hants pension commitments, pension investments has been in pretty safe hands. And I don't want to say fingers crossed because I don't believe in crossing fingers, but who knows what the next 6 to 9 to 12 months is going to bring. And I just hope that our employees' pensions remain in those same safe hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Humphreys. Rosie Humphreys.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you for your report. I just wanted to ask one item on the responsible investment strategy. Has the enhanced strategy been reviewed, or will it be reviewed now that the Council's committed to net zero by 2030? Because our net zero commitment, of course, requires the Council to reduce Scope 3 emissions. There's a reference to decarbonisation and managing carbon and climate risks, but no mention of net zero. So how will the strategy align with our zero carbon commitments Councillor made, none made on the Council's behalf back in February? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cecile Irvine-Swift.
Yes, just for all the councillors, I will remind them that when you do your annual report, after that, it goes to the audit committee and it's noted. So if there was any issue, I think the audit committee will raise it once more. So, but so far, yesterday, we had the auditor for the pension board, and he was very complimentary indeed. Thank you.
Super, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Emma Roberts.
Just very quickly, Chair. Councillor Longley referenced a report on divestment that he had when a previous motion was debated. I have asked you a few times for a copy of it. I know you think you might have shared it with others, but could you send me a copy of the report you referenced?
Thank you. Any further members who'd like to speak? Councillor Meredith.
I'll just declare an interest that I'm a pension holder from Northamptonshire County Council.
Thank you very much. Okay, any further members on this item? No. In that case, Councillor Longley, would you like to respond to the debate? Up to 3 minutes.
I'd be very pleased. I'll deal with Councillor Humphreys' question first. Where are you, Rosie? Right, every meeting, it's discussed, every meeting, without fail. And if you look at the reports on attaining zero, there is a report that's been around for some while. There's a team on that, and it gets reported every single time and where we stand. I mean, everybody's very welcome to come along to the meetings. I don't get many takers on that, by the way, I can tell you, but there you are. You're very welcome. That's the place, and you'd see the detail that's gone through, the investments, and also the investment subcommittee. A lot of work. They're good. It's good guys. Right, where was I with? With Catherine. Sorry, Catherine. I thought it was just so important that I covered that point, and everybody will be asking the question. So that's it. Finally, there, Emma. Just remind me what the report was, will you? Oh, sorry.
That's okay. When there was a motion brought with regards to pensions divestment, you said that you weren't supporting the motion because you had a report that gave you full advice on that whole subject matter. And we asked at the time whether or not you could provide a copy of the report, and you said you would. I then asked at another meeting, because you talked about it again, or I think Councillor Harris mentioned it again, and you said you did have the report and you'd share it. So it was a report around the whole cost of and the concept of divestment.
I'll see if I can find it.
Right. Okay. No further speakers. In that case, we'll take a vote, please, on item 8. Yes, no, or abstentions. Please use your keypads in front of you. Anybody having any problems voting, please raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, that report is carried at 69 yeses and 2 abstentions. Thank you. Okay, item 9, the annual report for the Pensions Committee and the Local Pension Board. Invite Councillor Longley again. You have up to 5 minutes to introduce the report and move the proposal.
I would hope, Chairman, I wouldn't need anything like that. This is really report. It's a compliance report, and if you read through it, on 6.1, it's a local board membership made up of 3 employer, 3 employee reps, and you don't actually have to have one of these, but it's if you look on the first page, it says this is good practice to do so, so we do. And it's just really to keep their eye on us and make sure we're complying with and doing what we should do. And that's their report, so that's really about the size of it, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kim-Pritchard, you have 3 minutes, I believe, to second the report.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Obviously, some of the issues actually have overtaken it, but just bear in mind once again that this is the report from the board with regards to 21-22. As a member of the board, I'd like to second the proposal by Councillor Longley regarding the annual report of the Pension Board for 21-22. The board itself actually is, should we say, a critical friend, and also it actually scrutinises to a certain extent of the committee and its particular actions. I would like to take the opportunity to actually compliment the author of the reports of our head of pensions, Mark Whitby, particularly bearing in mind, you know, some of the changes in the experiences of the reporting period that actually has been experienced recently. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. We have members of the council who want to express to speak, but if you'd like to do so, please raise your hand. Councillor Stone.
Thank you. I wish I could take up your offer to attend some of these meetings, but I'm afraid I'm really too busy. I've gone through this report, and I just wanted to draw your attention to something. I still don't really know what the board does, and I'll tell you why. It says in this report that you've had oversight once, you've made one challenge, you've welcomed things once, you've reviewed things once, you've noted with concern something once, you've sought assurance twice, you've advised 8 times, and you've received information 10 times. So all of that suggests to me that you're doing an awful lot of listening, but I don't really see exactly what it is you've done. Forgive me.
Thank you very much. Okay, any further members who'd like to speak? No? Okay. In that case, Councillor Longley, you have up to 3 minutes to respond to the debate.
I won't take anything like that, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I think that was clearly said. A critical friend is what they are. And you've got to bear in mind the team that we've got on this, looking after the pensions, and we're talking about a huge amount of money, £3.25 billion, enormous amount of money. And you know, I'd hate to think that Dennis's pension was in any way jeopardised. I can assure you of that. But the critical friend, I mean, if there's anything of any consequence there, we'd have dealt with it. And I can't answer your question because I don't know the detail of it. Respond to, but we all take it, I can assure you, we all take it very, very seriously.
Thank you, Councillor Longley. Okay, please do place your votes now, colleagues. Yes, no, or abstentions to accept the report. Any problems, please raise your hand. Okay, that is carried. 59, yes, no, 0, abstentions, 4. Thank you. Item 11, updates to the Constitution. Councillor Andrew Grant, I'd like to introduce the report. You have up to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The report before us tonight is an update on the Constitution, and basically we go back to December of 2021 when in fact the Council actually confirmed the new Constitution, and obviously at that time the monitoring officer has standing delegation. In the report before you on page 136 in 5.2, a number of changes have taken place since the last update in June of 2022, and that is referenced in 5.21 and 5.22, basically where the monitoring officer now specifically permits the signing of documents by electronic means, and also in regards to the contract procedure rules have been amended to allow for electronic signatures of documents, and this obviously improves the efficiency of the Council and removes the requirements for hard copy printing. There's also one there with regards to the proper officer for weights and measures to be altered to an officer who has the relevant qualifications to undertake the role by statute. Back in April, the council had a request to look at the priority opposition motion, and that was actually went to committee and came back to council in June. I wasn't actually at that meeting, and at that meeting further questions were asked and it has come back to the committee. We met again, we had a very good discussion, and the proposals before us tonight are outlined in 5.4, which is to become priority opposition business. And this is where a member of the group not forming part of the administration, so the largest political group, has the ability to make a statement. That can be responded to by any member of the administration, and then obviously the leader of the main political group then has 5 minutes. The intention was to have no vote, no questions or debate, the idea being that hopefully we can get some really good, robust discussions and hopefully enlighten a bit more the business of the council. There was also, we looked at whether the second largest political group, not forming part of the administration, would be eligible to have one of those opportunities. That was something that the largest political group, opposition group, did not support. However, as in 5.5, we did come up with a proposal to allow that group to have one opportunity to have a motion where if they weren't at the top of the list, that could be given priority once in the municipal year. I know Jonathan Harris is not here tonight, but Jonathan did play a great role and made lots of good comments. And Daniel as well, obviously, back in April, and yourself did a lot of good work on this. And it is for me to therefore move the report in front of you tonight, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Councillor Cecile Overton-Swift. Second the proposal, you have 3 minutes.
I will not use my 3 minutes after Councillor Grant, a very good summarization of when we met. So I propose to move the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have some members of the council already expressed a wish to speak on this. If you have any, please raise your hand. Councillor Stone.
Thank you, Chair. I've got real concerns about the state of our constitution at the minute. I think we've moved backwards from the constitution we had before us from the shadow authority to the one we've got now. I think we've stripped out of it an awful lot of democratic features, and I think we need to go back and have a look at that. My group wants to retain the vote on opposition business, and I think the vote today is instructive for the reasons why. We really need to know how the administration are thinking. I think it's shameful, the vote on opposition business today, but that's your prerogative. You're in administration, but we really need to all the time to be able to take the temperature and see where we are. So I would ask people to vote against that particular part of the Constitution. I think we need to look again at why we don't have written questions. I think that was an important avenue, not just for members, but for members of the public to hold cabinet members to account. I think the filibustering that I've seen today, which means that we probably won't get to all the motions, is regrettable. And I think we need to curb that in some way. I think there is a lot of work that still needs to be done on the Constitution.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
I'll try and keep it brief. It's opposition business. It was supposed to be an opposition business motion. A motion takes a vote. We make a decision. That's what it was supposed to be. I'd be happy to share the opposition business with any opposition party, but I do want a chance to actually make a change with the motion. I want a chance to deliver something rather than just have a discussion. You might not believe me, but I don't believe mission statements actually make a difference. So I do believe we need to take an action. And actually, the vote before was incredibly close. We won't have that in future. We won't have that view. I would also suggest the vote shows that even your administration has got some issues with your decision-making process at the moment and the way in which you're running things. Perhaps it doesn't have any confidence in what you're doing. I don't know, but maybe that's why you want to remove the vote. I'd urge any of you who feel a little bit like that, like me, to vote against this report.
Thank you. Councillor Sally Beardsworth.
Thank you, Chair. I find it very difficult to vote on something that I haven't had an opportunity to have an input on. And this way it demonstrates, if we were having a motion, then it should be debated by all parties and then voted on. But to be just the administration and the opposition, leading opposition, to take a debate and then expect me to vote on it. I did vote on it today, and I voted on it favourably because I believe what you're doing is a good idea. But I really do think it's not fair to expect me and my group to vote on something that we haven't had any chance to debate.
Councillor Rosie Humphreys.
No, I don't have any further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Adam Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be voting in favour of the recommendations because they've come from a cross-party committee that's discussed them. However, that doesn't mean that I don't have concerns about what's being proposed. Ultimately, I don't really understand what we're trying to do with this priority opposition business. We're faced with a motion that's not a motion. We have a statement followed by a response followed by a further response. And I don't see much democratic value in all of that, if I'm perfectly honest. However, yeah, I'm happy to give it a go in the next couple of meetings and see if I'm proven wrong. There has been cross-party input into the conclusions that we see before us, but as I say, I'm not wholly convinced that simply having a straightforward motion isn't preferable to this odd form that we've got before us.
Thank you. Councillor Ian McCord.
Thank you, Chairman. This proposal is not really an improvement. We still do not have a debate on the opposition ideas. So now we get Labour Party to spray some political graffiti and the administration will power hose it off. It's utterly pointless. Allowing the Liberal Democrats the opportunity to play a joker card once a year is not really sensible. And will the 10 p.m. rule apply if that happens to be the night they play it? I think we should allow more time to debate the Labour motions at the start and vote on it and have a debate. Then place the Liberal Democrats as the first place at the end of the meeting. It does not guarantee them anything unlike Labour, but it does give them a chance. Again, from what we've just heard on the debate earlier, or the motion earlier on litter, had there been a debate, there may have been a chance to remind members that there is life beyond the 30-mile-an-hour sign in Northampton. West Northants Council is not Greater Northampton Council, and this town-centric approach needs to end. Alas, there was no opportunity to make such points, and it looks set to continue. But we will have this confusion of activity for progress as a 15-minute slot for Labour to say, we want what we want, and the administration to say, yeah, whatever. This is not progress, and I think we will need to revisit it again after a few meetings. However, all we can look forward to is who will speak and for what side. From Labour, will we get Danielle outlining her latest list of concerns? Or will we get Bob, the more reasoned and thoughtful approach? We're guaranteed with the motion the hysterical hyperbole from Wendy. And when it comes to a reply from the administration, which treat awaits us? Which titan of the front bench will respond? Will we get the juvenile and supercilious outpourings from Phil reminding us of his love of Margaret Thatcher? Or will we get the Jim Hacker meets Churchill skit from Mike? Or will it be Vicky Pollard from Adam, yeah, but, no, but, yeah, but? Or do we get the real treat from the Vicar of Dibley meets WNC from Jonathan, no, yes? That's the only entertainment I can take from this proposal. It's the only reason to do it. It is utterly pointless, and I would urge, let's get rid of it, but let's actually get a constitution that works. It's absolutely terrible that the most exciting thing that we've managed to get to in the last 2 hours was a debate on the Pensions Board and the Pensions Committee. Chairman, we really need to improve these meetings.
Thank you, Councillor McCord. Okay, any further members who'd like to speak, please, on this item? No? Okay, in that case, Councillor Grant, you have the opportunity to sum up. 3 minutes.
It's always wonderful following Councillor McCord, because he brings entertainment and value and brings some good comments as well. Look, as we said before, this is a moving feast, which actually, whatever decision we make tonight, at the end of the day, will always be reviewed. And I think we have to accept that it was an interesting comment about filibustering, and I'm sorry, Dan, I think it was you, Daniel, that mentioned it, which is when we are asking questions, we ask a question, but we seem to have the ability to want to go round in circles before we get to the questions. And it really is in everybody's interest to be succinct and to the point, because obviously we do want to get through as much of the agenda as possible. And I do understand that obviously the oppositions do want to make sure they have the opportunity to maximise the evening, and that's fully acceptable. But I think there are times when succinct questions actually are really necessary. I think in terms of where we are as a committee, it has been well discussed. My view of it is tonight is to actually to propose that we do move the report. But it obviously does come back for review. And I think that is the right and proper way. And that is the way that we should move forward. And we'll come back if we need to. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, if you'd like to place your vote now, please, for item 11, yes, no, or abstention. Any problems, please raise your hand. Thank you. That is now carried. 51, 16, 1. So carried by yes. 51, noes, 16, and 1 abstention. Thank you very much. Okay, item 12, annual reports overview in the Scrutiny Committee. I'd like to call upon Councillor Mike Hallam. You have up to 5 minutes to introduce the report and move the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those that are expecting me to filibuster will be disappointed, so I won't be taking all 5 minutes. And I don't know many on this side that have taken all of their slots tonight, so I think that's important to mention that. I would, however, like to thank the Overview and Scrutiny team and the chairs of committees, councillors, and all of the support officers that have taken part in this hard work over the past year. It was the first year for a lot of first-time councillors getting involved and experiencing scrutiny. And it was interesting, I had a brief chat with Councillor Sargent at the break, and he reminded me that one of the items up later on in the evening was discussed as part of a scrutiny work programme in the old Borough Council days. So he was particularly pleased to see that come to fruition. So I think that is something that scrutiny can take pride in when those items do come before us and do come policy, and it can make a real powerful difference. Earlier in the week, the Cabinet had their feedback session with the Centre for Scrutinies. I know the chairs have their meeting coming up next week, so I don't want to spoil the surprise too much, but he was very complimentary on the ability of scrutiny to get up and running as a new authority and getting some work completed and under its belts. I hope you'll find his suggestions and recommendations really useful. I did too, and I and the rest of the Cabinet look forward to working with scrutiny over the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rosie Herring, support. Second the proposal.
Thank you. I'd like to second the proposal, and also as the chair of the People Overview and Scrutiny Committee, just say a few words of thanks to my committee and all the hard work that they've put in. We were, as he said, a new committee from a new council, so we got off from a standing start, but gained momentum, and we've covered a lot of ground. My committee actually has a very wide brief covering half a dozen directorates and at least 4 portfolio holders, but we've covered a lot of ground, and we've got 2 task and finish groups going, and possibly a third to be proposed at our next meeting. And the members that have been involved in those have worked incredibly hard and given their time and thoughts willingly and over quite a long period of time. And I urge all the other members of the committee to carry on the hard work because we've got lots to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have 4 members who'd like to speak. Any others, please raise your hand. Councillor Bob Purser. Go up to 3 minutes each.
Thank you, Chair. I worry that our scrutiny committees appear more like a nest of hungry chicks being fed information rather than vultures searching after best practice and areas for improvement. So I've got 3 questions. Can we make sure that on each item there are clear and specific recommendations that come to Cabinet and Council on every item that's considered by scrutiny? I still think the Constitution should consider whether actually it should be the chair of scrutiny committee should be held by opposition councillors. I think that's still a live issue. And the third question, which I think I heard an answer to, but I wasn't absolutely, when is this report that we all contributed to last year on the how scrutiny committee is going, when will that happen? When will that be reported on? And what's the process for considering that? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Steve. Councillor Stone.
Sorry. I wanted to make a comment on the corporate scrutiny report, Chair, as I was the first chair of that committee. I really, really enjoyed working in that cross-party group, I have to say, because I think everybody on that committee were very generous in terms of their expertise and what they had to offer, and they were very prepared to make the critical challenges that I thought were very helpful. So I'd like to thank them for that. And I would like to thank the scrutiny officer team because their help is always really invaluable. When I became chair, I decided to go to conferences and do a little bit of training to see what the critical points were to do with finance and to do with corporate scrutiny. And I brought those back into the committee, and so therefore we asked for the budget to be aligned with the corporate plan. That seems an obvious thing to do, but it wasn't being done. But the minute we made that proposal, it was done, and I'd like to congratulate the team who made that information available for us, and it will continue to be done. We recommended from that committee that we started the budget process earlier, and I know that that process has already begun. And that is so that the corporate scrutiny group can have a proper look, a very detailed look at what is going on and really understand it. We brought out the importance of getting to grips with the Social Value Act. It's not something that the county did or the borough did. I don't know if other authorities did. But it was a trick that we were missing. So we had a good go at understanding the Social Value Act. I think it's really pleasing that out of that discussion, the officer group decided to have a working group looking at social value, and we've already seen the benefit of that in terms of the highways contract, for example. I think there's still a lot more work to do on that, and we want to be able to see the benefit of social value, and I'm assured that we will see mention of it in subsequent budget monitoring reports. Another idea that was brought into the committee was this whole notion about following the money. If we have £346 million, whatever, to spend, we want to know where it's ending up. Is it ending up in France? Is it ending up in Russia? Is it ending up in China? What would happen if an awful lot of it ended up in WNC? So following the money has been an important concept. We learnt from ABSI, so that's the Association of Public Service Excellence, a little bit more about social value, but also the value of getting them, or another body, but we are members of ABSI, and it could be them, of scrutinising existing contracts to make sure we're getting value for money, and to make sure that we're getting out of that contract exactly what.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. That's your 3 minutes in line with the Constitution. Okay, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Very, very briefly, welcome the reports. Thank everybody for all the work they do. It's hard scrutinising topics that you're not necessarily familiar with, and I hope that everybody's on the committees educates themselves about the reports. I always try to do so. It's crucial, but the thing that's still missing for me is pre-decision scrutiny. The forward plan comes out and we scramble around and we say to the chairs of the scrutiny groups, do you think you can add this on? And you might get a positive response, you might not. But we've got to get better, in my opinion, at pre-decision scrutiny so we can shape those opinions. The housing strategy was a prime example. You know, the Cabinet member may not have accepted all of the recommendations from it, but at least there was an opportunity to put those recommendations forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sally Bidsworth.
I'll welcome the report and hope to get to the motions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Mike Hallam, if you'd like to respond, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. There's not much to come back on, really. I'll touch on the report. The only thing I saw some value correcting was Councillor Purser. I'm not sure you've been listening, actually, Councillor Purser, because had you heard Councillor McCord's description of the whole Cabinet earlier, and I think, if I remember right, Ian, I was Jim Harker crossed with Winston Churchill, you'd perhaps realise that Councillor McCord is definitely an opposition councillor who chairs the Scrutiny Committee. So I'm glad we can clear that. I'm glad this Harker-Churchill combination can clear that one up. In terms of the report, it goes to, we've had our briefing on it from Ian from the Centre for Scrutinies the other night, and it goes to the chairs of the, there's a session booked in with the chairs of the Scrutinies next week, and it's then obviously up to them how they disseminate it down and pass it on and what actions they choose to take. I and the other Cabinet will be willing to work with them on what actions and recommendations they decide to pick up on.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to ask for a vote now, please. If you are in favour, against or abstain, please do so now. Okay, the vote is carried. 66 yes, no, and abstentions are 0. So 66 is carried. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Paul. Okay, item 13, establishing a new 250-place all-through special education needs and disability school for pupils. And I invite Councillor Louisa Fowler to introduce this report. You have up to 5 minutes, please.
As you all know, this is a project very close to Councillor Baker's heart, and I'm honoured to speak on her behalf. For a long time, Councillor Baker has campaigned for adequate provision for SEND students, and this school gives us the opportunity to provide it. As a council, we have responsibility for the education of all children across the county, and thus it really is vital that we agree the funding for this school so that children with complex needs can access high-quality education, which will allow them to thrive in our county. There is huge demand for places in specialist settings across West Northants and, indeed, across the whole country. This demand will not decrease. Increased identification of needs, as well as the increasing complexity of needs, means that in the county alone, the number of EHCPs has increased from 2,587 in the whole of 2021 to 3,046 so far this year. A historic lack of investment has compounded the problem, and we now have, as Councillor Randall recognised, students who are being forced to travel long distances so that they can access education. In recognition of this, the Council has worked with educational leaders and SEND experts to develop the expansion plan needed to meet the growing need, and the new school at Tiffield is a central plank in that development. The school will give us the opportunity to provide the high-quality education that children in our county deserve. As mentioned in the papers, the school will cost around £23 million to build. It is subject to a final feasibility report that will be commissioned once a trust has been selected to build the school. Tonight, we are asking Council to approve borrowing of £10 million. The remainder will all be funded through existing grants. Although high sums, we need to recognise that there will be some cost avoidance savings. And to elaborate on Councillor Nunn's win-win scenario, the costs of a place at the new school will be £25,000 rather than the £61,000 the Council has to pay to an independent provider. We have recommended a preferred trust, but the final decision for the trust will be made by the DfE. The proposed site is Tiffield St John's, a site which is accessible to children across the county, ensuring that we will be able to meet the needs of more of the children in our care. Delivering high-quality education, which meets the needs of our residents, is a vital part of our duty of care, And this school will allow us to do that by providing specialist provision for 250 children, alongside the 250 places we are creating at school sites. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Adam Brown, I'd like to second the proposal. You're up to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Delighted to second this report, and I'd just like to pay tribute to Councillor Baker, who's fought tirelessly to extend SEND school provision in West Northamptonshire. It's a subject that she's truly passionate about, and I know that she regrets greatly the fact that she can't be with us here this evening to see this report through to its conclusion at Council, but I hope that councillors from all sides will join me in acknowledging her contribution to the decision that we're about to make tonight.
A very important project indeed for the community. Members of the Council who'd like to speak, please do raise your hand. Otherwise, I have Councillor Emma Roberts to start with.
Thank you, Chair. My very best wishes if you could pass those on to Fiona at this difficult time. At the first September Cabinet meeting, you were read a statement from the West Northants SEND Action Group regarding their concerns about certain groups of children in the county for whom there is currently no suitable education provision. Not simply that the existing SEND schools are oversubscribed, but there is nowhere locally that provides for the specific needs of this group of children. These are children requiring a special school place due to a high level of need, most often, but not always, associated with ASD, but with no intellectual impairment or significant speech and language delay. Autistic children with PDA, pathological demand avoidance, or extreme demand avoidance, who have very different needs from more classically autistic children. Many of the children in the county who are currently without any education or currently attend independent out-of-county schools fall into one or both categories. The SEND Group would like to know, will the new school at Tiffield provide for cognitive able children without significant speech delays who require special school places? And if not, how are you going to plug this huge gap in provision? Given that this school is highly unlikely to provide a viable option for children with PDA or extreme demand avoidance, what are your plans to develop suitable provision for this extremely vulnerable, yet ignored and forgotten group of children? In the Cabinet members' report earlier on, I was really disappointed with the content. The word complaining is used to describe the basis of the protests held by the Action Group. They weren't complaining. Things have gone way beyond that. They were pleading. They were begging WNC to hear their voices, to hear the voices of each backpack that they laid there was there to represent. Children as young as 2 starting their journey, children now looking for a college place as well. Quite frankly, they feel they've been let down for years. It wasn't a petition as referenced in the Cabinet report, it wasn't a complaint, and it wasn't about the lack of specialist facilities to meet needs. This school's great, but it doesn't meet the needs of the children they were there to represent that day. Every paragraph in the report is contrary to the message that they were delivering and suggests we weren't listening. We requested on the day that an open day was arranged with notice for the families. Please, can we get that arranged? The issues they raise on behalf of their children are not covered by the opening of a new school. What about EHCP wait times, lack of understanding and acknowledgement of diagnosis, a complete failure to recognise need, a failure to focus on EOTAS, education otherwise, than at school, a failure to answer emails, acknowledge failures, accept errors and fix them, a failure to hear the voice of the child, a desire to force people to tribunal, EHCP appeals and mediation when we actually concede before the tribunal or we lose. I've already requested full data on our spend on all of these issues. I haven't had an answer yet. Not only is this a complete waste of money, but it also means the child at the heart is losing out on the alternative provision while we argue about this process. They're losing out on their education and they're experiencing further trauma while we make indefensible decisions. I hear permanently this is a national picture, but I don't accept that.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Would you like to wrap up, please?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate national pressures and shortage of places, but I believe something is fundamentally flawed. We need a modernised approach, not an outdated picture of what SEND support should look like. To save those children's future and their families' future, we need a mass overhaul of our local systems, and we need it now. I ask that this starts with a review of every open case with a fresh pair of eyes and decision-making before we fail the youth of our future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Stone. I must remind everyone that obviously we have quite a lot of business still on the agenda, so please do try and keep to your time.
Just very briefly, Chair. My condolences to Councillor Baker. I'm really concerned about the Children's Trust, and I'm hoping, and none of us voted for it, but I'm hoping that all of us get behind it. And I'm going to look really carefully at the Ofsted judgment. They're having an Ofsted at the moment. I'm really pleased to see they're having more social workers. They're being more successful with their recruitment of social workers. One of the things I'm really concerned about is the overspend in children's, and I think it's because we've got the forecasting wrong, and I think we need to have a look again at that budget.
Sorry, Councillor Stone, this is not about the Children's Trust. This is about the Send School.
It's also, oh, right.
Can you keep your points to it?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll leave.
Thank you. Councillor Randall. Thank you. Okay. Any further members of the council who'd like to speak? Thank you, sir. Councillor Aziz, do come through.
Thank you, Chair. I have written a letter to Fiona Baker, 7th of December, regarding children suffering dyslexia. My 2 children suffered for dyslexia and never been diagnosed until they went to university. And the school told me they are trying their best to improve their education, but I had to employ private tutor. I was lucky. So Fiona Baker confirmed me that there is screening process in progress, and I would like to know how many children been diagnosed with dyslexia and what support we are giving them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further members who'd like to speak? Okay. Councillor McCord.
Thank you, Chairman. I think we should start by saying thank you. The provision that's being proposed tonight is extending SEND provision across West North Hants and helping some of the most vulnerable make their life a little bit better. And it would just be pleasurable if for once, rather than just have opposition for opposition's sake, we actually had someone saying, thank you. There is a lot more to be done. We can all say that, but there's little need to carry on with a long litany of issues instead of dealing with them one in hand to say, this is a new school, it's increased provision, and it's helping.
Councillor Stone, please allow Councillor McCord to finish his point. Councillor Stone, please allow Councillor McCord to finish his point. Thank you, Councillor McCord.
It's helping the lives of those people that we're actually here to serve. I do have a question, which I did actually see that Chris Lofts asked some time back, and it had to do with the site. And I'm not in any way expert or fully conversant with it, but I do know there are a number of complex legal issues, I shall leave it no more than that, concerning that site. Can we be assured that they have all been ironed out, or if not been ironed out, at least they're not going to be a blocker to actually delivering this project, and we're not going to spend numerous months or possibly years ironing these things out, having identified that as a site? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCord. Councillor Stone, did you have a last question or not? Please keep it to the subject.
Chair, I just wanted to point out that our duty as ward councillors is to represent the views of our constituents. And when there is a really serious, important gap in provision, it is our duty to bring that gap to the attention of the council. I think my colleague, Councillor Roberts, did a really, really good job at doing that, and her residents will expect her to be doing that, and she did it very well. And I found Councillor McCord's comments on that really awful.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. I think Councillor McCord was very positive in outlining his element there, but please do speak. Councillor McCord,
Chairman,
right to reply.
as I have been named, I have a right of reply. I didn't say that you do not have that duty to raise issues as you see them. I said, and I will repeat, it is a shame that you didn't at least begin by acknowledging that this is an increase in provision and saying thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further members of the council would like to speak on a separate point? Okay. As you have already spoken, Councillor, I think you might like to bear in mind we also have some matters already still on the agenda. If I could ask any new councillors who've not spoken to raise their hand. If not, I'd like to ask Councillor Fowler to sum up, please. Thank you.
Return to Councillor Roberts' points. I acknowledge all the issues that you raised, and I will pass them on to Councillor Baker. I think what I'd like to say is I don't think Councillor Baker sees this as job done. She sees this as job started. She knows there is still more to do, and she will carry on fighting for the children in our county, as I will do and as every other member in this room will do. So I will pass on everything that you said. One thing I'd say is this school is different to a review. We're here tonight to talk about the school. We can talk about the review as well. And with regard to the dyslexia screening, that's a completely different question. But if you want to put that in writing to Councillor Baker, she will respond to that. With regards to the legal issues, my understanding from Councillor Baker is she has met the trustees of the site and the legal issues have been ironed out, but I will ask Councillor Baker to respond to you directly about that question.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. I'd like to now take a vote, please. If you're in favour, not, or abstention for this report, please vote now. If you have any problems at all, please raise your hand. Okay, the report is carried. 66, no abstentions, and no objections. Okay, we are now going into private session, item 14, and please note the following item is exempt from publication. That under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that if the public were present, it would likely that exempt information under paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A to the Act would be disclosed to them. And I'd like to ask for support on that. Are you all in agreement to that? Thank you. Open, please. Gilly, if you wouldn't mind. Colleagues. And we're going back into public session now, so please do bear in mind not to refer to any of the matters we've just discussed. And please ensure the pink papers are tucked firmly away, or please hand them to DSS on your departure from the chamber here today.
Chair,
Yes?
I'd like to withdraw my motion tonight because there's not going to be time to debate it.
Okay. Well, before we do that, I'm just going to read the announcement that we have to make, which is that, in my view, we will not be able to deal with the outstanding matters by 10 p.m. this evening, as accordance with the Rule 10 of the Constitution requires that all outstanding matters will now be put to the vote without further debate. This means we will not allow recorded votes on any of the items. I will ask the Democratic Services Manager to ask members to vote on whether each item should be accepted, rejected, referred, deferred or withdrawn. These options will be presented to Council in order. Should there be a majority in favour of a particular course of action, such as to accept a recommendation or motion, then the remaining options may not be read out. Should the Council vote to refer a recommendation or motion, I will ask for a member to propose that appropriate body for that item to be referred to. Okay, Democratic Services Manager Paul.
Thank you, Chairman.
Ask for Council to vote on the remaining items, to accept, reject, refer, defer or withdraw.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Bearsworth indicated that she has withdrawn her motion, so that leaves one motion remaining, proposed by Councillor Stone.
Do I have an acceptance?
So I will just start the vote.
Abstention or negative, please vote. Councillor Brown.
This is a vote on the motion proposed by Councillor Stone about personal budgets.
Please decide whether you would like to vote in favour or not. Thank you, and that's
lost.
Okay, that's motion lost. 51 votes against, 15 for, and no abstentions. Thank you. No urgent business. Councillor Roberts. Councillor Roberts.
Your mic's still on.
My mic is always on. Councillor Roberts, carry on.
Oh, it wasn't my fault, sorry. I'd just like to make the point we had a 22-minute break. Chair, we would have been able to finish the business if we hadn't.
Councillor Roberts, we start at 2020 by my watch, which is exactly the same watch as said 2010 as we went on. There are no urgent items as far as I've been aware or advised in advance. Ladies and gentlemen, you also could reduce the number of minutes you spend speaking and therefore allow your colleagues to have further points or motions raised. That's your choice, obviously. Thank you very much for joining us. It's very